Yes. What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday night. It is 10 o'clock Central Time. I'm pouring myself a cold beverage here that's got a whole lot of foam on the top. But you know what that means. It's time for Just a Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. I got the smoking jacket on. I got a cold beverage here at my side, and I got my notes on all 13 of these fights that are going to be taking place on the UFC Vegas 88 card coming up this Saturday, headlined by Tuivasa going up against Marcin Tybura. Bit of a letdown in terms of the name value that we had on the last card at UFC 299 compared to this one. But at the same time, the best cards are the ones that we make a bunch of money on. We find the winning bets on, and it's so much easier to enjoy these fights when you're stacking units and having a good time beating up these bookies with a bag of oranges. So that's always the goal here. And we're going to love this card just as much as UFC 299 if it winds up being our best card of the year. So we're here to put in the work, find the spots, and figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 88. What is up with you guys here in the chat? I am doing okay. Coming off a losing week last week. Like my guy, Victor De Jesus here in the chat, who said that he had an 18-unit swing to the downside because of the Jaqueline Almeida loss. He ended down 4.1 units for the week, and he's going to probably keep it very light this week. For me, I was down just about the same as Vic. I was down about 3 units. Let me find my results here. So yeah, 3.81 units. And I had a unit on OLX money line. I really thought the pressure would get to Pereira. Boy, was I wrong. You know, sometimes we're wrong and sometimes we're spectacularly wrong with our picks. And that was one where I was spectacularly wrong. Down 1 unit on the OLX money line. I had two bets that were washes. I had the Brandon. I always call him Brandon Vera. I had the Marlon Vera scorecards equals no action. That fight went to decision. I had the Pedro Munoz scorecards equals no action. That one also went to decision. I lost a quarter unit on the fight to not start round 2 in the Holland Page fight. That was a plus 450. I'd make that bet again. I also had Caitlin Chukagian to win by decision. For a half unit at plus 260. There was a big difference between the money line and her decision prop, so I decided to take a half unit shot there. I thought that she would kind of try to stay on the outside and not grapple with Macy. I was very surprised by her game plan to shoot that many takedowns and not take advantage of the height, reach, and distance management advantage that she had in that spot. So that one did not work out for me as well. And then I had a 2-unit parlay where I parlayed Jaqueline's money line with the under 3.5 rounds in the co-main event, Poirier versus Saint Denis. So the only winning bet was Kyler Phillips to win by decision. I was gonna bet O'Malley by decision all week, and just for some reason didn't actually make the bet. Didn't come down to get that bet on my track bets for last week. So that was a little bit disappointing. And wound up down 3.81 units. It would have been a much, much better day if Jaqueline had won, because the greasy 4-leg parlay missed by 1 leg, and that was the Jaqueline Almeida money line. The ass shaving of the week was Jaqueline Almeida. I had Jaqueline Almeida in a prize picks play that would have hit. And I had him in an underdog play that would have hit. I mean, like, it was close to an 18-unit swing for me too. If Jaqueline wins that fight, I'm up like 3 units tracked, I think, on this event, and then a bunch of stuff off the books as well that wasn't tracked. It would have been so much better of a day for me in DFS and in underdog and prize picks. But that's the game that we play. And he had a great first round, and then it looks like his controller just got stuck there on that takedown attempt. It was like you're hitting the button, you're like, my fucking controller's broken. And that's what happened to, that's what it looked like it happened to Jaqueline there. So yeah, you guys, 3.81 units down. That means one thing: bounce back week. So we got to put in the work this week. We got to figure out ways to find these plus EV spots, the spots where the bookies make mistakes. When the bookies make mistakes, we have to take advantage of them, and that's how we wind up being long-term winners here in the end. So I am looking forward to breaking down these fights getting the stats on the screen, putting in the work with you guys, coming up with the dog pick at the end of the show, coming up with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week at the end of the show. And I'm going to need your help this week. You know, I looked through for the ass shaving of the week, and Mike Davis is like a -3 something favorite. Kennedy and Chekwu is like a -500 favorite. There are 3 women's fights on this card, and I will never pick the women fights for ass shaving of the week ever again. So it leaves us with a reduced palette of ass shaving of the week potential picks here. So I might need your help at the end of the show, coming up with a consensus here on what we think is the most violent fight to end and who's going to be the one doing that violent finish. So stay tuned at the end of the show for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. But what's going on with you guys in the chat here? We got a lot of work to do today here, and I know that one of the guys that grinds out there, my guy Paku, is here 5 hours early. You want to talk about dedication, and I happen to know for a fact that he hasn't left his screen, and he's just been sitting here waiting for 5 hours straight for this show to start. Well, it started now, buddy. Let's go. Let's get in here and make some money this week. And we got Vic in here already. We got my guy Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, "Oi!" And we got Olajuwon saying, "Is Nunes Chandler over 2.5 underpriced at -140?" Well, you know your Weezy's always got the answer to that, because I can always tell you guys what at least the metrics say here. And for this women's bantamweight fight at -140 here, the over 2.5 rounds at -140 is a 58% price. 71% of women's bantamweight fights do go over that 2.5 number. And for Nunes at the UFC level thus far, it's been 2 of 3, Chandler 1 of 2, 60% of their combined 5 fights. So not much of a sample size here. So that line isn't as useful here as this line, which gives us the bigger picture. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a fairly priced line to me. It looks like a fairly priced line. I think either one of these ladies, though, can get a finish. And you know who's going to get the finish here? It's going to be our guy Rich, because when he sees Chelsea Chandler on the screen, he finishes. And not in the way that we're thinking right now, but like, he is a big fan of Chelsea Chandler, and he's waiting for the OnlyFans, ladies and gentlemen, and it could happen any day now. Yeah, I mean, you know, we could do that. We got Josiane Nunes on this card. She would be a really sought after OnlyFans as well. You got Macy Chase on. She could come out there looking like Justin Bieber and put her own little OnlyFans out there. We've got some OnlyFans level ladies here ready to go on this UFC Vegas 88 card. So definitely stay tuned. My guy Rich here in the chat. Always good to see you hanging out, brother. We got Dylan Danuji in the room. No, Dylan Danugil in the room saying just a tip, just a little. Good to see you hanging out, Dylan. We got Danny in the room saying, "Oi!" We got Tehran in the room saying, "What up, uncle?" Oi! We got Matthew Chalk saying, "Oi!" We got Tehran saying, "I don't care nothing about these next couple of UFC cards at the Apex. They are a lot lower level than the last card that we just saw. Obviously, a little bit of a letdown here in terms of name value. However, the important thing is that we got some chances to find some spots here and make some money." And he is patiently waiting for UFC 300. Yeah, I think we all are at this point, but that's going to be a phenomenal card when it does happen. We got Presidente Pedro in the room saying, "Oi, let's get it this week." Oh, good to see you hanging out in here, Pedro. We got TH saying, "It's that time. What's up, Weezy? Let's go, man." Pickle Kush saying, "Oi, got my bag of oranges. Let's get them. Let's get it, man." I got a nice orange colored beer here that I'm going to be using to wet my whistle throughout this show. We got Tehran saying, "Anyone who knows me knows I'm more of a pay-per-view guy when it comes to the UFC. Not really a fan of the Apex cards." Yeah, I get it, man. You know, the Apex cards are the filler in between the pay-per-views. We got Kennedy parlayed with 3 parlays. I won big on MVP and Blades. Can't ever trust Holland. Yeah, man. He picked apart Holland, landed some big shots there. He did to Kevin Holland what he's done to so many opponents in the past, is just confuse them, frustrate them, and outstrike them from the outside. And he did it again, and it was a phenomenal performance. We got EQ in the room saying, "Oi!" Yes, we got Tehran saying Almeida is so boring. Well, it wasn't boring when he got his head smashed into the canvas. And Almeida never really needs to stop being so one-dimensional and learn some stand-up skills. I couldn't agree more. He's got to get more comfortable at distance striking range. And if he can do that, he can actually win some minutes there, because people will be so worried about his grappling that'll make his striking look even better than it really is. And then once he gets a little bit of faith in his striking and is able to spend some time out there at distance, not be so uncomfortable there, when he does that, then he's going to be able to use that striking to set up better entries on the takedowns. And once he starts getting better entries on the takedowns, he'll be able to get to those dominant positions that much easier on the ground and be able to finish those fights. He's got a lot of work to do to round out his skill set, because he can be a top 5 fighter in 205 or heavyweight, but he's got to clean up that striking, because not everybody has no grappling game, or the kind of grappling game that is going to be able to deal with him. And I mean, we're talking Blades is an elite heavyweight grappler. He is one of the best grapplers in the entire division, and has won as many minutes with his wrestling and top control and ground and pound as anybody in the division. So he needed to be able to count on his striking to set up some opportunities for him in the grappling, and it just didn't happen. He's not there yet, but that doesn't mean that he can't get there. The guy, Jailton Almeida, is a phenomenal talent. His ground game is excellent, and he belongs at 205. It's just people won't fight him there. So he had to move up to heavyweight, and he just had a setback, but I think Jailton will be back. I think he's going to get better. I think he's going to learn from this loss, and I think we'll see him back in the win column next time out. Benino saying only winning bet was JDM plus 120, $50. God, that was a sweat. Congrats to O'Malley and MVP bettors. Damn, did they make it look easy? Yes, they did, man. We got Teron Brown saying MVP looked very impressive. Couldn't agree more. Yippee Kaye in the room saying, hey, Weezy, this year the man. Appreciate all the knowledge and entertainment you bring. Thanks for everything you do, brother. Thank you for the real kind words. Yippee Kaye, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot, dude. Matt saying won 5 units, but I'm keeping it light. Only Kennedy, maybe the ass shaving. Yeah, man. The batteries did die in the controller. Like, he went into that shot and he was in on it, and then all of a sudden he just dropped to a knee, and then he didn't move again the rest of the fight until like the elbows, or I mean like the hammer fist, actually put him on his back. It was like the battery died in the controller, or the controller just got stuck, and he couldn't do anything, man. And it absolutely destroyed my week. EQ saying, ahoy, hoy. We got James saying, yo, what up, James? That's a good-looking pit bull there in that picture. Look at that handsome dog right there. Loving it. We got Olajuwon saying, LOL. We got my guy Kiwi in the room saying, Chural. We got Dylan saying, you almost got it right. I almost got the name right. Denujal. Something like that. But yeah, my pronunciation is good sometimes and awful other times. We got MA saying, oi, back at it, Unc. Let's get it, man. Remdog in the room saying, oi, it's Joe Benavidez fight week. Let's go, Weezy. Yeah, Joe Benavidez, you're not fooling anybody. He has reinvented his combat sports career as a bantamweight female named Josiane Nunes, also a southpaw, also with a 67-inch reach, and also just happens to be that nobody's ever seen these two in the same room at the same time. Joe Benavidez bringing it back, man. Pulling a Joanna man in reverse here. We got M.A. Laren saying, do you think any chance that any of the 3 women's MMA fights finish early? I think that there's a possibility that all 3 of them finish early. Jaqueline Amorim has got a very opportunistic submission game. Chelsea Chandler and Josiane Nunes both hit like men. And Macy Chason has already finished Pannie Kianzad once. And she's very powerful at 135, and she's absolutely huge for the division. So she could get a submission, she could get a knockout. So I think there's a possibility for all of them to finish inside the distance this week. Joe B versus Justin B for the censored MF belt. Let's get it, man. Let's go, dude. We got Jeff saying, is it possible Almeida thought he was competing in the ADCC this entire time? Maybe he didn't know that striking is part of the UFC rules. He did know, Jeff. To be fair, he did land one significant strike. So he absolutely knew, that he could land strikes there because he landed one. So yeah, man, maybe, but we got to explain it to him that striking is a part of this sport. I seen someone call MVP boring. I guess they sim that because he's not a Homer Simpson that goes in there and fights like a moron. Yeah, he doesn't run at you or anything like that. Great to be here. Weezy says Cucumber Dr. X. Earlier today, I also had the pleasure of taking your very long-winded show with Clint. Sometimes it can be challenging to rein him in. We were both drinking, so we were both a little bit loquacious last night, and the show went almost 3 hours. We got Cuban Assassin saying, incredible how Burns just finds a way to lose. Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the fight, JDM knew he needed a finish, and he went for it, and he landed that knee. I mean, that was a fantastic finish by him. We got Hap in the room saying, what's good, Weezy, my guy? So glad I stuck with my BSD pick. It felt watching him. It felt good watching him go nap time, man. Yeah, that was a hell of a fight. We knew that was going to be a barn burner from the start, and it absolutely was. And it looks like BSD got tired, man, after between rounds, and evidently he was sick with the staff, but I don't want to take anything away from the performance of Poirier. Landed fantastic strikes there, gets the knockout, and who knows what's next for him, man. I mean, it could be just about anybody. So that's a big win for Dustin Poirier, and he got a big bag for getting that win too. So congratulations for Dustin Poirier. He could throw a few more 100,000 on the pile. We got Caddy Daddy saying, "Oi, let's find that lower hanging fruit of the week. Let's do it, man. I'll tell you what I've got going so far." Yeah, all right. And we got last card was my best hit in 3 months, over 12 units of profit. Nice work, dude. Weezy, do I think O'Malley is this generation's Silva? I think so, and I don't like the dude. I don't think he's quite like an Anderson Silva, but I think, yeah. I mean, he's a once in a generation striker in that he's unique and he's got that swag. He's got that the look about him. He flashes that power and he can do a lot of stuff that a lot of people can't do. He's gonna have the eyes of this sport, for a long time to come. But I think he's just got to kind of stay away from that. He's got to stay away from that Merab fight at all costs because he's not going to beat Merab. I don't think Merab is just going to take him down over and over again, and he's not going to let him have the fight that he wants. And that's something that Sterling gave Sean O'Malley the fight that he wanted. I don't know why. If you're Aljamain Sterling and you wait to shoot a takedown until 10 seconds left in the first round, then it seems to me like you're trying to lose. And when you're Marlon Vera and you've got a conditioning advantage and you've got a big time durability advantage and you've been to 5 rounds so many times and he's never been to 5 rounds, and then you wait until round 4 to get started throwing fucking punches, I mean, you're never going to win like that. So, I mean, they just, if they want to keep him as champion, they just can't let him fight Merab because Merab's not going to go in there and strike with him. Merab's going to actually fight a fight that Sean doesn't want to fight. So I think that O'Malley is a fucking once in a generation fighter just because of the charisma and the uniqueness that he brings along with that, really talented and elite level striking that he has. Fighters like MVP who fight defensively are always boring to most MMA fans. That's true. Anyone calling MVP boring is just a weirdo. He's mad exciting and he's the man. And nobody really fights like him, so he's very fun to watch. Oi, 2 fat ladies, 88. Let's go, man. We got Chandler saying what's up. Tehran, what's good, brother, says Hap. We got Hap saying Weezy opinions on this take. If JDM is getting taken down and controlled by Burns, who is the worst wrestler in the top 5? Bilal and Usman beat him. Leon too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude. JDM has got to clean up that ground game. Definitely, there's no question about it. Yeah, I know the Dustin pick at PSD. I know, man. MVP said he wasn't interested in fighting Thompson. Interesting, because I think that would be a good matchup for him. That hidden treasure saying, "Verily, I say let's cash tickets like flapjacks." And what's the other line? The ass shaving of the week. I think that's the other line. The ass shaving of the week, cash tickets like flapjacks. We got Diamond paid the cost to be the boss. Yes, sir. Dustin can fight winner of Holloway and Gaethje. That's a good one. That'd be a good one. I got O'Malley as the best striker in the UFC right now. I was a hater, but that Vera performance was beautiful. Yep. O'Malley isn't like Silva. Any fighter we had close to Anderson Silva was Izzy. Izzy is similar to Anderson Silva. That's true. I think Merab gets knocked out by O'Malley in round 1, in my opinion. That would be interesting. We're gonna see that fight at some point happen, and it's gonna be a really fun one to watch. But you guys, we're already 21 minutes in. We got 13 fights to break down, so let's get at it here. Let's start with Charalampos Grigoriou at -156 going up against Chad Anheliger, a +136 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, sitting at -155. Let me get these stats up here for you. And we're going to first start talking about the trends in this fight after I get a little sip of this Maplewood Son of Juice, the IPA. This is a brewery that is literally walking distance from my house, and they have got really good stuff. So shout out Maplewood Brewing in Chicago, Illinois. Got my Son of Juice here. All right. I'm ready to talk some fights with you guys. And shout out to all of you guys hanging out live, everybody watching on the replay. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Please consider leaving me a comment down below so that we can interact here in the comment section of this video. And then also consider joining the Patreon, where you get access to these phenomenal statistics that you see on these shows that I do on my channel and on Pub Sports Radio every single week. It's the best way to support my work, and it'll help you make better gambling decisions, as you can take every fight on these cards, match up both fighters' statistics side by side, match up their statistics with how they compare against the divisional averages, and figure out, where certain fighters are better than other fighters. And it'll help you kind of figure out what the paths to victory for each fighter are, and will give you an idea of how to price those things when you look at things like the prop template and the new betting template, which you guys saw on Probability last week right here on my channel. But let's start out with talking about the trends in this particular fight. Now, Charalampos is a 31-year-old fighter of Cypriot descent who's 8-3 as a pro. He's fighting out of Longo and Weidman MMA, and he's currently on a 4-fight winning streak, with his last loss coming back in 2021 to Christian Rodriguez by 3rd round KO. We're going to talk about Christian Rodriguez later on in the show. Charalampos will be making his UFC debut fresh off of a 1st-round knockout of Cameron Smotherman on Dana White's Contender Series. He was a +145 underdog in that fight back in August of 2023. Now, Chad Anheliger is 37 years old. He fights out of Champions Creed in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I believe he might even have his own gym now. And Chad started his pro career at 2 wins and 5 losses, but then he changed camps to Champions Creed. He took a couple of years off to kind of reinvent himself as a fighter, and then he rattled off 10 straight wins. Chad was the Rise FC Bantamweight champion. He won it versus Craig McLean. He defended it versus Brady Heastand. And then he got his shot on Dana White's Contender Series, punched his ticket to the UFC as a +340 underdog, beating Muin Gafarov by split decision. And he won his UFC debut versus Jesse Strader by 3rd round knockout as a -240 favorite. And he's now on a 2-fight losing streak, a 30-27 unanimous decision loss to Alatang Hey Lee as a +145 underdog, and a 3rd round submission loss with just a few seconds left in the fight to Jose Johnson as a +160 underdog. Chad is a +170 underdog right now to Charalampos Grigoriou. Now, Charalampos is going to be 5.5 years younger. He's going to be 1 inch taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Chad. And this dude has got fight-ending power in his right hand, and he's got seriously heavy calf kicks, which can really slow down the motion of his opponent. Now, Chad Anheliger's got the pro experience advantage. He's got 8 more fights, 30 more minutes of cage time, and he's got 4 more years as a pro fighter. And he's also got the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights at the UFC level, 43 more minutes of octagon time, as Charalampos will be making his debut on Saturday. And Chad also has the power to show for it here with 2 knockdowns. He's got a 2.13 distance knockdown percentage at the UFC level. And he's got 1 UFC win by way of KO. And he's 7-0 to the knockout as a pro. And he's got a dangerous guillotine choke. He's got 3 career wins with that submission. And he's fought the better brand of competition overall in his career compared to Charalampos Grigoriou. Now, it's an interesting fight to start the card. On the Grigoriou side, you like the fact that he's 5.5 years younger, an inch taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and all of those come by way of knockout on that winning streak. This dude has serious power in his right hand, and he's got dangerous calf kicks, and he showed the ability to be dangerous late in fights early in 2023 as he won in the 5th round by leg kicks to win a championship in a lesser known organization. I think it's Combat Pro, was it? Let me look here, you guys. Charalampos got that 5th round win over Chris Dissanel in Combat FC. So he won the Combat FC championship with that performance. Chad is more experienced, though, in comparison to Grigoriou. He's got more experience overall and at the UFC level. He's fought the better brand of competition overall, and he's got power in his own right. He's 7-0 to the KO in his pro career and is landing a knockdown on over 2% of the distance strikes that he lands. And he's shown that he's got a really good chin, too, as he's never been knocked out in 19 professional fights, but he has been submitted in 6 of his 7 losses. As you can see right there, 6 losses by submission in a 12-7 record. So this guy is somebody that you can get to the submission on. But the good news for Chad is that Charalampos has never won a fight by submission. He's got 6 wins by KO and 2 by decision. So it's hard to lay juice on Dana White Contender Series guys making their UFC debut. Even some of the most promising prospects have nerves and adrenaline dumps under the bright lights. I mean, we're going to talk about later. As a big favorite against Sam Hughes, Jaqueline Amorim came out, had 1 great round, and then had a massive adrenaline dump and looked exhausted after 5 minutes. So it's always a little bit troublesome when you're laying juice on these debuting fighters, especially when they've only got 11 professional fights and about 100 minutes of cage time in their careers. So, but Grigoriou does have serious power in his hands, and he can really slow you down with his nasty calf kick attack. But outside of those 2 weapons, I don't see anywhere else that he's very dangerous. And Anheliger, he's got kind of like this funky striking style. He keeps his hands low. He's got a wide stance, and he explodes into range with straight right hands. He can definitely catch you and mix in some takedowns every now and then to win minutes. This should be a close fight. I favor Grigoriou's power early, but I think the longer the fight goes, the potential for Grigoriou to slow down due to nerves or an adrenaline dump, combined with Anheliger's experience and durability advantages, will make Chad a lot more live in the second half of this fight. This is more likely a dog or pass spot to me. I don't hate the over 1.5 rounds at minus 215 here, but I won't be playing that myself because I think Charalampos is very dangerous early. But I'm going to pick Chad Anheliger to kind of survive that early storm, start putting it on this guy later on in the fight, and find a 3rd round knockout. So let's go to make picks here. And we're going to start off the night by saying Chad the Monster Anheliger is going to break this 2-fight losing streak and find a knockout in the 3rd round of this fight against the ferocious Charalampos Grigoriou. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Pierre saying he can't wait for this card. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a fun one. I think there's some good matchups on this card. MVP said he didn't want to fight Thompson because they're friends. Okay, got it. My wife's boyfriend agrees, says Leon's son. We got Pierre saying I lost 4,500 on Almeida, but this is the game we play. And he also lost 3,300 on Benoit Saint Denis. Those are big numbers, Pierre. I picked Benoit Saint Denis. I obviously picked Almeida. That was the ass shaving of the week. So, yeah, it's a shame Benoit got sick, and it's a shame Jailton's controller got stuck there when he was going for that takedown at the beginning of the second. But let's get on to this next fight, as it's going to be Jaqueline Amorim, the small underdog here at plus 108, going up against Poppins, Cory McKenna at minus 128. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 130 for this fight. Let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. And let's talk about the trends. So Jaqueline is 7-1 so far as a pro. She started her MMA career at 6-0 with all 6 wins coming in the first round, 5 submissions, and 1 knockout that happened in less than 20 seconds. Jackie is a dominant submission grappler. She's a BJJ black belt with numerous accolades in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world, including world championships at the purple, brown, and she's placed in the top 3 in several black belt world championships as well. Other than her loss to Sam Hughes in her UFC debut, where she adrenaline dumped after a dominant first round, we haven't seen anything from Jackie other than dominant wrestling, top control, and submission threats. She's facing off against Cory McKenna, who's coming off a 15-month layoff, and she's on a 2-fight winning streak over Miranda Granger and Cheyenne Vlismas. Her lone UFC loss comes against Elise Reed in a terrible performance where Cory showed awful fight IQ, choosing to stand and bang with somebody who had no grappling game at all. But outside of that fight, Cory has looked really solid, shown good wrestling, top control, submission defense, and a functional striking game. She's well-conditioned and well-rounded and has been a lifelong martial artist. These are 2 high-level grapplers who are both young in the game squaring off here. Very interesting fight. And when I say lifelong martial artist for Cory McKenna, she had her first amateur fight at the age of 15. And if I heard the announcer correctly, I think he mentioned that she might have even fought on the same card as her mom. So she comes from a fighting family, and she's been a mixed martial artist from a very young age and a power lifter too. So Cory McKenna, a very interesting, still very young prospect at only 24 years old here. Now, Jaqueline Amorim in this fight is going to have a 9.5-inch reach advantage. Let me repeat that. 9.5-inch reach advantage. That is significant, ladies and gentlemen. She is a very opportunistic finisher, a 100% finish rate in 7 wins, 2 knockouts. One was a standing knockout. The other one was a ground and pound knockout against Montserrat Ruiz, and 5 wins by submission. Elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 5-0 to the submission, multiple-time world champion and runner-up in BJJ Worlds, purple, brown, black belt levels. Now, Cory McKenna is going to be 4.5 years younger. She's got the overall experience advantage here with 2 more pro fights, 70 more minutes of cage time, and she has the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and 20 more minutes of octagon time. Cory's got excellent wrestling. She gets 2.35 takedowns per 15 minutes with 53% accuracy. She outcontrols her opponents 41.5% to 11.5%, winning over 78% of the control time positions that her fights are in. And I doubt that this fight takes place on the feet for long. Both ladies spend less than half of their UFC octagon time at distance striking range. And for Amorim, it's only 22%. Both these ladies can wrestle and grapple, but it's Amorim without a doubt who is the more opportunistic finisher when the fight gets to the ground. I saw Cory get her back taken twice in the Kay Hansen fight, once at the end of the first, and then again towards the end of the second. And if she makes that mistake against Jackie, she loses the round and maybe the fight. I'm not sure I can pick Cory to win the minutes here if she gives up position in any spots, but her wrestling is very good, and she tends to survive the bad spots that she's put in and often gets reversals and winds up on top. So I think that this is going to be a very close fight. even though Jackie has a 9.5-inch reach advantage, I think this will be close on the feet. And I favor Cory's experience, the strength of schedule, and wrestling, but I'm not sure she wins all the minutes on the ground. I feel better betting the over 2.5 rounds here at minus 185 than I do picking a winner in this fight. I think Cory survives the early sub attempts, and this fight goes to decision, but the over 2.5 at minus 185 is a 1-unit bet for me this week. So I am betting on this fight. That is my strongest read, is that Amorim is very good on the ground, but so is Cory. So I think Cory survives those early submission attempts. I don't think either one of these ladies is knocking out the other one at distance striking range. So I think this fight goes to decision, and I'm going to pick Jaqueline Amorim to win this one by decision. And there we go. And yes, 1-unit bet, minus 185 for the over 2.5 rounds here. All right. What are you guys saying in the chat here? We got the Canada value side here, says Tristan Sherhouse, the Maple Leaf. Yeah, it looks like Canada value side. We've got You Will Bounce Back, Pierre. He says Matthew Chalk. We've got Tristan saying, I took McKenna at plus 105 after UFC 299 ended. Okay, yeah, you got her at plus money, because that's a good move there, Tristan. That she's minus 125 now. A lot of money coming in on Cory, so way to beat that line movement. And now you'll probably be able to arb out if you feel like doing that. But I get why people are betting McKenna here. She does appear to be the better wrestler. She is more experienced. We've seen a lot more data of her at distance striking range, looking okay there. You know, not looking great, not looking terrible, but she's only got a 58-inch reach. So she's capped in terms of how good of a striker she's ever going to be, but she's still functional with her striking in the women's strawweight division. So yeah, I got no problem with that play there. That reach differential is insane. Yes, it is. I mean, that is ridiculous. You don't see that very often, 9.5 inches, especially at the lower weight classes. So, yeah, this is one of the best fights of the card. These ladies are well matched. They're both young. They're both very good prospects with a lot of upside, and they're both very good at what they do. With Cory, it's a little more of the wrestling, top control, minute winning with the grappling exchanges, while Jaqueline is a very opportunistic finisher, whether the fight's standing or whether the fight's on the mat. So I think it's a really good one too. And yeah, my pick is going to be Amorim by decision for this one. All right. The next one is going to be a banger, ladies and gentlemen. I am very agnostic about who's going to win this fight, but I do have a bet on this one that I like quite a bit. And it is going to be Joshua Culibao here. He is a minus 186 favorite going up against Danny Silva, the Cub Swanson protege, at plus 161. The fight doesn't go to decision here, even money at plus 100. So let's start talking about the trends here. Now, Josh Culibao is coming off a dominant loss as a plus 120 underdog to Lerone Murphy back in July of 2023. But before that, he was a 3-0-1 in a 4-fight stretch and on a bit of a hot streak with 3 consecutive victories over Shayuan Nurdenbeka, Sungwoo Choi, and Melsik Bagdasarian. And before that was a barn burner of a draw against Charles Jourdain. Danny Silva is fresh off a DWCS win over Angel Pacheco and an absolute ding-dong of a Donnybrook as a minus 210 favorite, where he landed over 200 significant strikes and beat 7 shades of shit out of Angel Pacheco over 3 rounds. Danny's a Cub Swanson protege. He's 8-1 as a professional, with his only loss coming against Kenan Kawai by majority decision in a fight where he was out-grappled in the first 2 rounds. Danny loves to get in the pocket and slip and rip, and he's always in exciting fights, and this one should be no different. Now, Josh Culibao is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. He's got the pro experience advantage. He's got 5 more fights, about 70 more minutes in the pro cage, and 3 more years as a pro fighter. In addition to that, he also has the UFC experience advantage with 6 more fights, 75 more minutes of cage time as Silva makes his UFC debut on Saturday. Josh is an excellent minute and moment winner at distance striking range. He's got a positive 0.58 distance striking differential. He's got a 1.72% distance knockdown percentage, 65% distance striking defense, and he's got 3 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights, so he can definitely flash some power at distance as well. And he's fought the much better brand of competition in comparison to Danny Silva over his pro career. Now, Silva is 2.5 years younger. He's going to be 1 inch taller. He's a switch stance fighter, so that's on paper an advantage. And he's got excellent pocket boxing, good pressure, solid power, loves to slip and rip in the pocket. He's got a great chin and good, crisp, technical boxing. This is going to be a fun fight. Both guys are primarily strikers. Silva's 5-0 to the KO, and Culibao 5-1 to the KO. Only one of Silva and Culibao's combined career wins comes by submission, so I do expect this to be mostly a stand-up kickboxing match. Culibao has 0 takedowns in 6 UFC fights, and Silva prefers to box. So Culibao will be the longer fighter, looking to maintain distance, and Silva will be looking to walk forward, get into boxing range, and move his head and counter while he's there. I like Culibao's experience advantage. I like his length, his power, his distance management, and his strength of schedule advantages, while I love Silva's boxing, toughness, pressure, and durability. These guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls, and I'm not confident who's going to get their hand raised. But stylistically for this fight, I like that under 2.5 rounds here, as neither of these guys cares to grapple much. Both guys have a lot of power and are skilled kickboxers. I think this has the makings of a stand-up war, and under those circumstances, I always lean towards the violent side. So I took a 1-unit shot on the under 2.5 rounds here at plus 155. I saw that go to plus 165 after I got it at plus 155, but now it has come down a significant amount as we look on fight odds here. Culibao versus Silva, and that under 2.5 rounds is still a plus 145 here. It actually bounced down though to minus 115, but since then it has definitely come back up to plus 145. So that's a bet I really like. Right about the time I was gonna start the show, I saw it at minus 115, but it's right back to plus 145. That's a bet I like. I mean, sure, it could go over, but I do think that Culibao's got a lot of power. Silva's got a lot of power. Both these guys tend to prefer to strike, and we did see Culibao kind of land a big shot in the Meerschaert Baghdasaryan fight, and he jumped on a rear naked choke in a very opportunistic fashion and was able to finish the fight there. So I could see a finish, Culibao club and sub, Culibao knockout, Silva knockout. I think all those things are live to happen. So under 2.5 rounds, debuting fighter, 2 guys with a bunch of power, plus 145. That's what I'm going to go with here. But in terms of my pick for the fight, like I say, you guys, I'm not confident in either side. I'm going to side with that experience advantage, the length advantage, the power, the strength of schedule advantage of Josh Culibao here, and I'll pick him to win by 2nd round knockout. But like I say, I'm a lot more confident about the under than I am about who wins this fight. So don't put too much here into the prediction about who's going to win, but know that my strong read is violence in this spot. The comments here, what is going on with you guys here? Oh shit, we got the High Owl in the house saying oi, and he's saying what's up to Pierre, and saying holy shit, that's a rough night, but we're going to get it back this week, Pierre, or not this week necessarily. We're going to get it back. That's the important thing. We're going to get it back. But what the one mistake that we have to avoid trying to make after a big down week is trying to get it all back in 1 week, because that can actually spurn even more losses. So we got Remdog is saying, I think with McKenna's pedigree, we could see an increase in upside from her with the extended layoff. Played her at minus 110. Yeah, see, Remdog, I agree with that, because a year and a half layoff, year and 3 months, whatever it is for McKenna, I think it's about year and 3 months. If you're 33, that sucks, because you just lost a year of, toward the end of your physical prime. But when you're 24, like Cory McKenna, she could be making massive improvements in the time off. So, yeah, I agree with that statement. Remdog likes this fight, the Culibao Silva fight. I do too. I think this is going to be a real ding dong. We got Zach Johnson likes Josh Culibao by decision in this spot. We got the High Owl saying BSD getting knocked out was monumental. Yeah, it was, man. When Poirier started landing, I was like, oh, he's in a heap of trouble. He was just landing so crisp, and then Poirier just never lets off the gas, man. Once he hurts you, he goes for that kill, and he got it. High Owl lost a couple $100. Silva can't finish guys at this level. We'll find out. But, Culibao is a pretty durable guy. He got knocked out only by Jalen Turner, and that fight was up a weight class on short notice. So, I don't really take much into that loss by Culibao. Outside of that, he's fought some pretty big hitters in guys like Baghdasaryan. So he is definitely a guy that's pretty durable out there. I'm rarely so wrong on confident picks. Yeah. Last time I was that confident was Pavlovich versus Aspinall. Yep. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. It's going to be a late notice replacement fight here. We got Thiago Moises at minus 425 going up against the short notice replacement here in Mitch Ramirez. Mitch is a plus 325 underdog, Las Vegas native, training out of Syndicate MMA. He got the under 1.5 rounds right now for this fight is at plus 125. So let's get these stats up here for you guys. And let's break down some trends for this fight. Do I have any beer left in this can? Nope. Okay. But I still got plenty of beer left in this glass, and that's the most important thing. So the trends, let's go. Thiago Moises has lost 3 of his last 5 fights. He's had some tough opponents and is coming off a second-round KO loss to Benoit Saint Denis as a plus 135 underdog in September of 2023. The recent losses for Thiago coming against quality opponents like Joel Alvarez, Islam Makhachev, and Benoit Saint Denis. And when he gets a step down in competition against guys like Melquizael Costa and Christos Giagos, he handles it accordingly, getting first and second round finishes against those guys. Thiago's a minus 425 favorite to the Las Vegas native and Mitch Ramirez, who's 8-1 as a pro, with his only setback coming in August on Dana White's Contender Series against the Fighting Nerds product, Carlos Prates, who just got a second round knockout over Trevin Giles. Mitch has finished 7 of his 8 professional wins. He has power on the feet and can mix in the wrestling to win minutes and land ground and pound. And he's 2-0 to the submission, with both of those submission wins coming by way of rear naked choke. Mitch took this fight on just over a week's notice and is a big underdog because of the massive step up in competition, along with the short notice nature of the fight. Now, even though Ramirez is the guy with much less experience at only 9 professional fights, and Thiago has 24 professional fights, it's actually Thiago who's 2.5 years younger than Mitch Ramirez. Thiago's got the pro experience advantage. He's got 15 more fights, 250 more minutes of cage time. The UFC experience advantage with 11 more fights, 122 more minutes of octagon time as Ramirez makes his UFC debut on Saturday. And the superior submission grappler by a country mile is Thiago Moises, BJJ black belt, multiple-time world champion, 8-1 to the submission as a pro, and 3 of his UFC wins come by way of submission. There should be a massive submission grappling advantage in favor of Moises in this matchup. And the overall strength of schedule advantage also goes to Thiago Moises, having 2 more fights at the UFC level than Mitch Ramirez has as a professional. So the level of competition these guys have faced just isn't even close. Now, Mitch Ramirez is going to be the bigger dude. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He's a guy who's bounced around between 155 and 170 pounds. But this fight's at 155 and it's on short notice. So I think it's going to be important to see what Mitch looks like on the scales, try to determine what kind of a weight cut that he had. And there might be Well, there probably is a moment-winning advantage at distance striking range here for Mitch Ramirez. He's a powerful striker. And there could even be a minute-winning advantage, but that's probably a little bit of a stretch. We don't know much about Mitch. What we do know about Thiago Moises, though, is that he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He's got a 34% striking accuracy. He lands only 3.21 distance strikes per minute at distance. That's 1.37 less than the divisional average. He's got a negative 2.23 distance striking differential, and he's very low volume as he throws about 4.3 less distance strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. He's never landed a knockdown in the UFC, and he's been knocked down once. So, yeah, negative knockdown ratio, negative distance striking differential, big time negative distance strike attempt differential. Just not a very good striker, but Mitch is a work in progress. You know, he's still new to the sport with only 5 years as a pro and 9 professional fights. So, yeah, I mean, like this should be Thiago Moises. I think a good spot though here is we see that under 1.5 rounds at plus 125. I kind of feel like if Mitch is going to get a finish, he's going to be landing a big shot on the feet early. And we've seen Thiago dropped. We've seen him knocked out twice at the UFC level. And we've seen him get 7 shades of shit beaten out of him at range by guys that aren't the best strikers in the world, like Joel Alvarez. Michael Johnson was beating the hell out of him for the entire first round of their fight. So it is possible that Mitch could land a big shot on the feet here or even be the better distance striker at range. But I said, like, that is a little bit of a stretch. So I do like Thiago to eventually get on the back of Mitch Ramirez and finish this fight, or potentially Mitch finds that chin early because he knows he's got nothing to lose in there, and he can just kind of go out there and throw caution to the wind because nobody's expecting him to win this fight anyway. So if Mitch goes out there and just kind of walks Thiago down and tries to find that chin and hopes that he can stuff the first takedown attempt or two, he's got a shot, you know, but I kind of like that under 1.5 at plus money. I think that's a good look this week, but I'm going to pick Thiago Moises to win this fight by submission in the very first round. So let's get those numbers up here. And yeah, welcome to the UFC. Mitch Ramirez, the fight stalker, but a very tough matchup against a much more experienced guy who's younger and more well-rounded here. And we're going to pick Moises by first round submission here. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. No feeling quite like watching your guy get stiffed. No, I know it. I've been there. Yeah, like look at Oleksiejczuk. I mean, he got man, he got his shit pushed in by Pereira, and I had a unit on him at plus 120. And then, you know, like the Almeida bet was looking great up until it wasn't. So yeah, it's a bad feeling, man, when that happens. We got Zach saying Josh gets a pass for getting finished at 155 by Turner. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's one we can kind of look past. Hi Owl saying overproof rum on ice here. Cheers. Cheers to you, my man. Let's get it. And we've got Zach saying not only short notice, the fight's at 155, not 170 on a week's notice. Mitch is fucked, bro. Yeah, and that's another reason why I think that under 1.5 rounds at plus 120 is a damn good look. As a matter of fact, I'm going to throw a unit on that right now before it moves, because I think that's kind of a silly line to get plus 120 there. So let me interrupt this week's show with an attempt to make some money here. Under 1.5 rounds, plus 125 for 1 unit. Let's make that an official bet. All right. And we got my guy Volkan Ardic in the room saying, what's up? What's up, Unc? Good to see you hanging out, Volkan. Let's go on to the next fight. 60 of you live hanging out in here for UFC Vegas 88, breaking down these fights. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, and hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the great content coming up on this channel. And we're going to talk about the very next fight, which is going to be the pastor, Jafel Filho, at minus 178, going up against Ode, the Jamaican sensation, Osbourne, at plus 153. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 220 for this fight. So let's start talking about the trends here. And if it weren't for the fact that Muhammad Mokaev refused to tap to a knee bar that tore up his knee and actually kept him on the sidelines for almost a year, Jafel Filho would be on a 7-fight win streak right now, with all of those wins coming inside the distance. However, Muhammad Mokaev did not tap and somehow found a finish of his own. So Filho has won 6 of his last 7, and he's coming off a first-round submission win as a minus 120 favorite over Daniel Barres in what was a back-and-forth Donnybrook for as long as it lasted. And Ode Osbourne has won 3 out of his last 5 fights, but he's lost 2 out of his last 3, getting knocked out by Tyson Nam, winning a razor-close split decision against Charles Johnson, and then losing by submission in the second round to Asu Almabayev. So Jafel Filho is going to be 1 year younger than Ode Osbourne in this matchup. Jafel is going to have the pro experience advantage with over 40 more minutes of cage time than Ode, and he's the more opportunistic finisher is Filho. This cat's got a 93% finish rate. That's 9 wins by submission, 5 by knockout. So 14 of his 15 pro wins come inside the distance. This guy can finish everywhere the fight goes. This guy is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's 9 wins and 2 losses to the submission as a pro, while Ode is 4 wins and 3 losses. Jafel averages 2.51 submission attempts per 15 minutes, while Ode has never even attempted a submission in the UFC. So I definitely rate Jafel Filho as the more dangerous grappler in this fight. Now, Ode Osbourne is going to be bigger than this dude. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. Excuse me. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. That's an on-paper advantage. He's got the UFC experience advantage. Now, that's 6 more fights than Jafel. He's got 33 more minutes of octagon time, and he's a well-rounded guy. He's got 4 wins by submission, 5 wins by knockout, 3 wins by decision. He's got good size and length for the division. He's got a wrestling background. He's got explosive finishing ability, especially early in fights, and a functional striking game that's capable of winning minutes and moments. And he's got slightly better distance striking metrics than Filho. He's got a 1.23% distance knockdown percentage, positive 0.11 distance striking differential, and he's slightly more accurate and defensively responsible at range than Filho is. But that's not saying much, as Jafel Filho has got horrible distance striking defense at 42%. But like I say, Osbourne's is better at 49%, but they're both ass. And Jafel can't hit water if he fell out of a boat either. 33% distance striking accuracy in 7.76 minutes of distance striking time. So it's an interesting flyweight matchup here. Ode Osbourne's going to have the size, the length. He's a southpaw, and he has the UFC experience advantage. He flashes power on the feet early in fights. Now, Filho, this dude is durable. He's never been knocked out, and he proved that durability in the Barres fight. He's a very opportunistic finisher wherever the fight goes, and his submission grappling game is elite. He's on fire right now, having won 6 of his last 7, and he could easily be on a 7-fight winning streak if Mokaev had tapped to that knee bar. Ode has fast, accurate hands, and he's a talented counterpuncher. He can maintain range and win minutes there, while Filho is also dangerous at range. He shouldn't be willing to stay there for long due to Osbourne's reach advantage and Filho's submission grappling advantage. Filho is going to need to pressure, close the distance, use his boxing to set up his takedown entries. If he can get this fight to the ground, he has an excellent chance to get a finish due to the fact that Ode has 3 career losses by submission, and Jafel is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with 9 career wins by submission. I like the under 1.5 rounds here at plus money, and I think both of these guys will be dangerous early. I feel the X factor here, though, is going to be Jafel Filho's durability. And if he can not get KO'd early, I think he eventually finds his moments in the grappling exchanges and finishes with a submission. So the official pick for this fight is going to be the pastor, Jafel Filho, to win by 2nd round submission. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got my guy is in the room saying, what up, Unc? Always good to see my guy, Clayton. That's not Clayton Bigsby. That is the crackhead. Tyrone Bigums. Always good to see Tyrone in here. We got Bailey in the room. What's up, Bailey? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Fubu in the room saying, oi. We got Super Samoan legal team. We got Mark Hunt's lawyer in there saying, hello, brother. I appreciate everything you do for us. Great breakdowns. How do you feel about this parlay? Filho, GM3, Isaac Dalgarian, Tai Tuivasa, and Moises. So I'm picking all of those fighters to win. Now, that's a little bit of a spoiler there, but yeah, I think Filho wins. I think GM3 wins. I think Isaac Dalgarian wins. But I'm not going to be betting on Isaac. I think that number is getting a little bit wide. I think Ty wins, and I think Moises wins. I think that'll probably hit, my man. We got Volkan saying you pronounce my name good where many people butcher it. I appreciate that, Volkan. I'm not great with some pronunciations, but other pronunciations I can tend to do all right. And with a name like that, I'm Greek. Volkan Ardic, probably Turkish. So yeah, like us Greeks, we can get the Turkish names. The Turkish people can get the Greek names. We got history, We got Zach Johnson in the room saying, Filho chin, only thing that scares me. He's gotten chin checked a few times, yes, but he tends to eat it. And he's never been knocked out in his career. He has been submitted twice, though. So, yeah, obviously against somebody that hits like Ode Osbourne, that is definitely a concern. Fubu saying, I love Ty, but I can't bet him this week, let alone parlay him. Just my opinion, says Fubo or Fubu. Unc, I see you as one of some sharps out there. I appreciate that, Vulcan. That means a lot, man. We got Zach saying he's smart. He'll take Ode down and sub him out to avoid the speed and the power. I think that would be the path of least resistance here, especially against a guy in Osbourne who's 4-3 to the sub as a pro. We got the legal team for Mark Hunt saying Filho is so wide open on the though we lack the ability to ponder the idea of guys learning from their losses. Yes, Ode may come in here with something to prove. Yes, he does need a win here. He definitely needs a win in this spot. Brava saying, I really think Ode is going to touch up Filho on the feet. Yeah, I think he can do the better work on the feet for sure. We got Super Samoan saying that Fubo, I thought the same thing when I watched Marcin fight Walt Harris. He's a bum on the feet, and if Ty hits him clean like Walt did, it's a wrap, I feel. Yeah, I mean, the way that Ty hit, but Walt's got ridiculous power too. So, and he was able to somehow survive that because he was in big trouble in that fight until he got that takedown on the caught kick. And as soon as he got that takedown, advanced to a dominant position and he ground and pounded Walt Harris out. So, yeah, Marcin can be very dangerous on the ground. Caddy Daddy in the room saying, hearing Yanni the Greek, he'll finish him on Dana White's Contender Series when he forgot his mic was on for the Filho fight was gold. He's like, atta boy, finish him. He had a hot mic and he had no idea his mic was hot. It was absolutely brilliant. I think my guy, the Couch Warrior, actually posted that on Twitter. So if you check out the Couch Warrior's Twitter feed, you'll find that little clip. It was funny. Ty blew his knee out at this camp. Been on IG drinking, and he trains with his mates at a local gym. I did not know that. Wow. That's not good. That is not good at all, dude. Tyrone Bigums, LOL Classic. Yes, for sure, man. 50% of Ode's losses by sub. Yes, sir. Real Fight Pig saying, I was watching your greasy four-leg from last week for fun, but this is better. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, the four-legger is always a little fun thing to do every week, We were 3 out of 4 on it, man. It just came down to Gerald not getting the job done. We got Vulcan saying, yes, it is. I thought so, Vulcan. Good. We got Billy Nicholson saying, join the what? Join the resistance. Join the resistance, Billy Nicholson. We've got Lou Betcha saying, oi, free Lou Betcha. Free Lou Betcha. Free Lou Betcha. Got to get this man back on Twitter. We got DGen for life saying, oi, sup, Weezy, have you mentioned how OSP is slower than molasses in January yet? Not yet, but we will be getting to that breakdown here shortly, and I will talk about how I'm concerned that OSP might have a cough syrup habit or, might just be like just slowing down so much to the point where molasses in January is actually faster than him but we're going to discuss that fight shortly. D-Gen for life. We got Ode's leg kicks have gotten better. Not that you had got a good look in his last fight. That's true, man. Was Ty blowing his knee out? Why Ty versus Tybura got delayed from 298 would make more sense if that was the case. We got Super Samoan saying the line on Kennedy is disgusting. 2 glass cannons. OSP could sleep him with a pawing Looney Tune punch falling backwards. That's so true. Yes, he had emergency surgery and had the tendon removed. Wow, that's not good. Bob saying, let's go, Bob. Oh, checking in from the Netherlands. And we got Zach Johnson saying, I heard about Ty's knee too. Okay. All right. So that's something we got to keep in mind. Maybe I'll change my pick because if this dude blew out his knee recently, that is never going to lead to success in the cage. Okay. Well, let's get on to the next fight. And it is going to be Joe Benavidez at minus 138, squaring off against Chelsea Chandler, the underdog at plus 118, Stockton, California. Stand up. And we got the fight doesn't go decision here at minus 130 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen. And I just want to say right off the bat that this is not a fight that I'm going to be touching with my money. This is pretty low level for the women's bantamweight division. Both of these ladies have a ton of power. So I don't think I want to get involved in this one at all. Let me talk about the trends here with this fight after I get a sip of my beverage. So Josiane Nunes is on a 9-fight winning streak right now, and she's 10-1 as a pro, with her only loss coming back in 2013 to Taylor Santos by decision. She's 3-0 in the UFC. She's got wins over renowned tomato cans like Bea Malecki, the Swedish Muay Thai champion, Ramona Pasquale, and Zara Fern. Ladies with a combined UFC record of 2 wins and 8 losses. Now, Josie is a minus 135 favorite over the 5-2 Chelsea Chandler, who's fresh off getting her ass shaved against Norma Dumont. But before that, she was the one shaving the ass, brutalizing Julia Stoliarenko by first-round ground and pound knockout. Both these ladies have power. They both finish more than half of their pro wins. This should be a really fun scrap here. Now, Joe Benavidez is 3 years younger on paper here. Joe is pretending that he is a 30-year-old, 5'2" southpaw with a 67-inch reach from Brazil named Josie Annie Nunes. And I mean, the reach is almost the same. The height is almost the same. You know, they're both southpaws because you can't fake being a southpaw. It's not like he can just say, oh, I'm an orthodox, and start writing, signing checks with his right hand while he's pretending to be Josiane Nunes. So, of course, Josie's a southpaw. So, yeah, I mean, Josie, 3 years younger on paper, legit power in her hands. She's 7-0 to the KO, hits like a man. Shall we say similar to how Joe Benavidez might land strikes were he a 135-pound female bantamweight. Josie stays busy, attempting 17.35 distance strikes per minute, and she's landing 7.29 of them, both well above the divisional average, and her 1.46% distance knockdown percent is elite for the division. And she's got solid grappling efficiency. She avoids losing minutes on the ground despite being inactive with her offensive wrestling. Chelsea Chandler is going to be 6 inches taller than Benavidez, going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Chelsea also has legit power in her hands. She's 2-0 to the knockout in her career, and she showed off heavy hands and solid ground and pound in the Stoliarenko fight. Chelsea has faced the tougher level of UFC competition thus far. Nope, not going to do it. My money goes nowhere near this fight. Both girls have power, yet neither one of them is a phenomenal minute winner. Neither lady has ever been finished, and I'm not sure I can count on either one to win many minutes with their grappling. But I do lean Chandler overall in the grappling exchanges. I also like the size and height she has, and since she matches Nunes in the power department, I'm going to side with her in this fight. But once again, let me be clear. My money is going nowhere near this. The pick is going to be Chelsea Chandler to win by decision. I mean, come on, man. Is that not Joe Benavidez? I mean, tell me if I'm a prick. If I'm a big prick, if your Uncle Weezy's being a big prick, tell me in the chat, all right? But if you want to see a picture of Josiane Nunes and Joe Benavidez in the same room at the same time like I do, maybe we should call for it on Twitter. Maybe we should have a GoFundMe just to pay travel expenses for one of these two so they could get to the same place at the same time, take a picture in the same room so that they can just put this little controversy behind them and get on with both of their lives. But that's if they want to get it behind them, you know? That's if they want to prove us wrong, you know, because the chances are maybe we're not wrong. You know, maybe that is Joe fucking Benavidez there, and maybe we're all the ones being the joke being played on. So I don't know. I'm picking Chelsea. I'm picking Chelsea here. We're calling it a decision. And tell me if I'm being a prick. I don't know, man. Maybe I am being a prick. I don't know. It's you guys are gonna have to tell me. All right. Let's see. Oh, it happened on Boxing Day, huh? Of the knee injury for Ty. All right. Yeah, it's Joey B, Bob. We all know it. We all know it. We're just waiting for him to fucking finally fill us in on it. Dude, Kennedy inside 60. I mean, I think Kennedy under 1.5 rounds. That's what I'm going for. Fight to not start round 2. Yeah. OSP is so washed. Dude, yeah. He's been in that washing machine for a minute. Super Samoan saying, women's MMA so hard to gouge where anyone is at ever. Stay away from this one, boys. Couldn't agree more. Chandler via being big, says Brava. We got, Chelsea is the running meme, right? Yes, that is her. That is her. Sprinting the other way. But then again, you could put two Joe Benavidez's just in the ass of Norma Dumont. And if there's one thing that any of you guys have learned from watching this show, it's that power, it comes from the ass. The bigger the ass, the harder you can plant those feet, the more power comes from the upper body. That weight transfer, it's in the hips and it's in the ass, ladies and gentlemen. And Norma Dumont, whoo-hoo! Does she have an ass on her or what? G-Man is in the room laughing his ass off. Appreciate you, G-Man. It's Enrique Barzola. That's not Barzola, dude. That is Joe Benavidez. Who are we crapping here? I mean, it could be Barzola. It might be Barzola's cousin. Billy Nicholson, Megan Olive wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. I don't think so. I agree, man. I feel like Josiane looks like Jeff Molina. That's just me. Okay. Ref Talk saying, I'm curious to see how Chelsea does cutting to 135. Yeah, that will be interesting because she's fought a lot at 140, 145, but she has had fights at 135 and made weight there. So we're going to have to see about that one. The Joey B thing came up in your show with Brady, and I almost died laughing on the way to work. Appreciate man. We got Michael saying Kennedy is a glass cannon. OSP has been looking extremely washed. Yes, there is no doubt about it. We got Jeff Bruno saying the ass theory. It does explain Derek Lewis's power. Dude, I'm telling you, man. Weight transfer, ass power. You want a pitcher with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball? You give me a guy with a gigantic ass, a Sid Fernandez size ass. They're going to bring heat. You know, stubby legs, power, and it comes from the ass transfer, the hips. It's all right there, and you learned it here. We got, am I working on an arse template? My guy Kiwi knows what's up, man. Stay tuned for the arse template. We got M the Great saying, "Oh, Unc, I'm a frequent viewer of your show and just wanted to let you know how awesome you are. I appreciate you, M. That means a lot, brother." Justin Willis had a big ass and he couldn't crack an egg. No, that is true, but that's Justin Big Titty Willis. You know, that's different. You know, like I mean, it wasn't as big of an ass as Curtis Blades, who actually beat the shit out of Big Titty. So, yeah, man, that's true though. But still, not all asses are created equal. We got Paku in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Weezy in chat? Thanks for joining us, Paku. I know you were here 5 hours before showtime. It's good to see you hanging out in here with us live." All right, let's move on to this next fight. And it is going to be Natan Levy at plus 255 going up against Beast Boy Mike Davis, the minus 305 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Sitting at plus 145. Let's get these stats up on the screen. and let's start talking about some trends for this fight. It's good beer. All right. Natan is on a 2-fight winning streak now. He won by unanimous decision versus Mike Breeden as a minus 195 favorite back in April of 2022. And he followed that one up with another unanimous decision win over Genaro Valdez as a minus 200 favorite. Since then, Natan has had 2 consecutive fights versus Pete Rodriguez canceled due to Pete's weight cutting issues. And then Levy had to pull out of his scheduled fight with Alex Reyes in September of 2023. And now we get to see him return after a year and 3-month layoff versus Mike Davis, who's on a 1.5-year layoff in his own right. So lots of ring rust going into this matchup. Mike is on a 3-fight winning streak over Thomas Gifford, Mason Jones, and Vyacheslav Borshev, and he's won 5 of his last 6. His only 2 career losses came against Super Sadiq Youssef and Gilbert Burns, so it takes a very talented fighter to beat this guy. Natan Levy is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. The dude is extremely durable. He's a solid distance striker with a traditional martial arts base, positive 1.06 distance striking differential, 50% accuracy, and some wild traditional martial arts techniques that he mixes in. He's a very busy wrestler and grappler. Averages 11 takedown attempts per 15 minutes, and he gets 6 of them, and he outcontrols his opponents 20% to 17%. Now, Mike Davis is just a little bit younger, like 6 months younger than Natan Levy. He's 3 inches taller. He's got the 1-inch reach advantage. He's got the pro experience advantage with 3 more pro fights and a few more minutes of cage time and 2.5 more years as a pro. And he's also got the UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight and 9 more minutes of cage time. Mike Davis is an athletic freak. He's got great speed. He's got great size and explosiveness for the division. He's got a phenomenal MMA base. High-level boxing background, trained at Custom Autos Gym, a 3-0 record as a professional boxer. Mike wrestled in high school, and he has a BJJ black belt. Very well-rounded fighter. Busy distance striker with good length and power. He lands 6.35 distance strikes per minute. He's got 49% accuracy and 60% defense. 2 knockdowns in 4 UFC fights and a 7-0 record as a pro to the knockout. Pro boxing background, speed, power, athleticism, and technique. He's a solid wrestler. He showed it off in the Borshev fight. He's getting 3.89 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's got 63% accuracy, and he outcontrols his opponents 20% to 12%. He faced and has beaten the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss records. So, in summary, both of these guys are on long layoffs, so that needs to be taken into account. I want to see both of these guys on the scale before I come to any confident conclusions about how this fight is going to play out. On paper, Davis is younger, taller, longer, more explosive and athletic. He has the better boxing and wrestling backgrounds, and he's fought the better brand of competition. So it's hard to say Levy finds a way to win this fight. Levy's a durable and well-rounded fighter in his own right, but his wins over lower-level UFC competition were not very impressive, and he still only has 9 pro fights and is rounding out his own skill set here, and he's the older fighter. Davis should be better everywhere, and his UFC tape looks a lot promising than Levy's, but both guys are well-rounded fighters. I'm going to pick Mike Davis and pick him to win this fight by decision. So we got Beast Boy Davis winning this one by decision here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, inactivity is the trend here. We got Volkan saying what's up to Paku. We got inactivity is the trend, says Super Samoan Legal Dream. We got Kiwi saying sure Paku. We got Zach likes Mike Davis in this one easy. We got Michael saying Mike Davis is really good. He's just super inactive. Mike had a shoulder injury during this layoff, from what I understand. So, yeah, that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. And we got to keep an eye on both of these guys on the scale. Volkan saying he's going to go for Davis here. Yeah, I'm going there too. Fubu saying there's a good document on YouTube I watched last night. Tiger Muay Thai Scholarship tryouts. Had a bunch of good fighters in it. Mike Davis, Charles Johnson, etc. Yeah, and I think Mike Davis actually won the tryouts there at Tiger Muay Thai. So that's really cool. Zach saying Davis is a fringe top 15 fighting once every 1.5 years. Yes, sir. He just doesn't fight nearly enough, and so he'll never really climb the ladder, being that inactive. Davis is legit better everywhere. Agreed. Yeah, agreed everywhere. And then ring a ding ding, you guys. We got Paku MMA in the room with the $5 donation help keep the lights on here in the studio, saying ring a ding ding. I had 2 bad fight nights, then I killed on $2.99. That probability show helped me find some good spots. So here's some cash. Thank you. I'm glad you watched Probability, Paku. That show is my favorite show to do, and we're looking to have that be a weekly show once I figure out how to get this spreadsheet in a format that's going to either convert properly to Google, which it isn't doing right now, or I can just find a way to display the information properly so that the content that goes along with it will be useful as the spreadsheet and information in the spreadsheet. So keep an eye out for Probability as a Patreon or Dub Club only release with content and spreadsheets to go along with it so that we can quantify fighters' winning conditions based on their prior performances and how they match up statistically with the prices of the lines and the benchmarks for the division. It's going to be a really cool concept that I've come up with. And for those of you who did watch Probability last week, you got a sneak peek at what that product is going to look like. Zach saying he is miles ahead with his hands, and you must be talking about Mike Davis. Volkan Kiwi Brood saying, what's up from Paku? We got Zach saying Davis was a good wrestler in high school too. Davis round 3 is worth a sprinkle. Yeah, did Davis win state or something like that? I didn't want to say that he won state, but I thought I heard he did. And then when I went to go Google Mike Davis, for some reason, there seemed to be a lot of people named Mike Davis. You know, I didn't know that, but evidently it's a pretty popular name. It was kind of hard to find information on how well he did in high school wrestling, but I did hear high-level wrestling, high-level boxing, high-level BJJ, great athlete. He just needs to fight more. But all right, you guys, thank you for listening to that. Thank you for the donation, Paku. Let's move on to this next fight, as it is going to be Gerald GM3 Meerschaert at -240 going up against Bryan Bam Bam Barberena, the +205 underdog. We got fight doesn't go to decision at -170 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. As always, these stats can be found at Patreon /Uncle Weezy. All right. So the trends here is that Meerschaert has lost 3 of his last 5 fights, and Bryan Barberena has lost 3 of his last 5 fights, and Bryan is on a 3-fight losing streak. And yeah, he beat a couple of aged veterans in Matt Brown. I don't think he won that fight. He knocked out Robbie Lawler, and then he got submitted by Rafael Dos Anjos, got submitted by Gunnar Nelson, then moved up to 185 pounds, where he lost a dominant unanimous decision to Mahmoud Muradov. And Meerschaert has wins in his last 5 over Bruno Silva and Dustin Stoltzfus, and lost to Krzysztof Jotko, Joe Pyfer, and then a split decision loss. Close fight against Andre Petrosky. So Barberena is younger, but it's going to be Meerschaert who's the natural middleweight here, 1 inch taller with a 5-inch reach advantage. Meerschaert a lot more experienced overall, about 23 more fights, but really only a couple more minutes of cage time and a slight UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight. But since his average fight time at the UFC level is only around 8 minutes and it's about 12 for Barberena, it's actually Barberena who has more cage time in the UFC. In terms of finishing fights, Gerald Meerschaert has a 100% finish rate in the UFC in 10 wins. This guy has got 9 submissions and 1 knockout. So he is pretty much entirely dependent on winning moments. Now, Bryan is 4-5 in the UFC in decisions. So he is a guy who can outstrike you at distance, can out pressure you, can outwork you, throw more than you, land more than you, and take more than you can dish out. So Bryan's an interesting opponent because he's not the most skilled guy. He barely wrestles at all, and he loses a ton of minutes on the ground. He's not the most powerful striker, but he certainly can hurt you. But what he really does like to do is just force a fight and not really make it about who's the more technical striker, who's the slicker submission grappler, who's the better minute winner. But it's about who can take more punishment, who wants it more, and who's going to actually force that fight more. So an interesting stylistic matchup here, because on the Meerschaert side, you got a guy with 27 wins by submission in his career. He's got 52 fights and 27 wins by submission, an 84% finish rate in his 35 wins. So, I mean, he's a very, very dangerous guy with 33 wins by finish, a 94% finish rate. So 33 of 35 wins by finish for Gerald Meerschaert. So he is a guy who is going to try to get the fight down and look for that submission. Otherwise, he will land some ground and pound and look to finish you that way as well. And Barberena is very susceptible to that. We see that Barberena is seeing about 8.23 takedown attempts per 15 minutes against him, and he's giving up 4.15 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's been taken down 59 times in 18 UFC fights. Now, Gerald gets 2 takedowns per 15. He attempts 5.36. He's very active trying to finish fights once he gets them to the ground, attempting 1.53 submissions, getting 0.77 reversals per 15 minutes. So it's going to be up to Gerald to get this to the ground. But even if he doesn't, he's 1 inch taller. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage against Bryan. So there is a chance that, Gerald can kind of stay on the outside and be the guy maybe even landing the bigger shots at distance. And if Bryan gets a little bit too reckless trying to come forward, close the distance, and get into boxing range, it could set up some reactive takedown attempts for Gerald Meerschaert. I don't really know what Bryan Barberena is doing at 185. This move doesn't make any sense for him. It just kind of leads me to believe that he's not taking this seriously, because one of the things, that you have to do in this sport, especially at this level, that's a necessary evil, is weight cutting. I mean, it just, if you just refuse to weight cut and want to go into every single fight at a massive size and reach and power disadvantage, you better have something else in your skill set that will be able to make up for those disadvantages that you have. But Bryan just doesn't have that. He's just a tough guy who comes forward and forces fights, but his striking isn't particularly technical. He can't wrestle his way out of a paper bag. And on the mat, he's been submitted 2 times at the UFC level, 3 times as a professional. He gets out controlled 29% to 8%, winning only 22% of the control time positions that his fights are in. So, yeah, while I think that, stylistically, maybe he could force the type of fight that could give Gerald some problems if he just gets in Gerald's face, backs him up to the cage, stuffs the takedown attempts, and makes this, an attritional striking match that takes place in the pocket, yeah, then I think maybe Bryan could really hurt Gerald, that he could get him on the back foot, that he could outwork him over 3 rounds or get a knockout at some point. But I think in order to fight that way, he's going to open the door to Gerald getting those takedowns, to taking advantage of some mistakes by being overly aggressive on the Barberena side. Because if he isn't, he's out-lengthed, he's out-heighted, he's out-grappled in this spot. So I don't know how he wins it unless he closes the distance. So I'm going to have to pick GM3 here. But I'm telling you one thing. This is not a guy I'm laying juice on. And I don't want to, pay even money for a submission prop, even though I think GM gets this done by submission, probably in the second round. But and that's going to be the pick. The pick is going to be Gerald Meerschaert by second round submission. but I'm not going to be betting this fight. I'm just going to be keeping my money away from it. I'm not a believer in Barberena as a middleweight, and I don't believe in betting GM3 as a favorite in the UFC against anyone. So this one's a nice pass, and the pick is going to be Meerschaert by submission in round number 2. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. This fight ain't making the bell, says Zach Johnson. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance of that. Will the probability show be a Patreon exclusive? Yes, it is going to be, but it's not ready yet. So I'm not going to even create that tier or the Patreon if I do a separate Patreon for my current one until the show is ready and the spreadsheet is debugged and ready to go out to people. But yes, it will be a Patreon exclusive. And then the plan is to go live for the pay-per-view events for free on YouTube to, heighten awareness of the show so that hopefully more people will join the Patreon. But yeah, we're going to be doing it for the bigger cards, to promote the show. But we really want those analytics to benefit the people that support the work. Zach Johnson saying, I thought Bam Bam looked horrible at 170. You thought he cut too much weight? Is that what you think? Or do you think he didn't fight particularly well there? I mean, to me, it just didn't look like he was cutting too much weight to make 170, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But yeah, that's one thing, he cutting weight is hard, so he doesn't want to do it anymore. Barberena couldn't finish a Caesar salad. I mean, he's got some finishes, man. He's actually finished, I think, more than half of his UFC wins. He's got 9 UFC wins, and he's got 1 win by sub and 4 by KO. So, guy does have some finishes at the UFC level. He finished Robbie Lawler. It was a strike that hurt Bruno Silva for GM3 when he won that fight. Yeah, I know. GM3 will knock him down and mount him and sub him. That's definitely a possibility. Yeah, Gerald is only fun betting as a dog. Yeah, exactly, because that submission is always live. And I think Gerald Meerschaert third round should be an auto bet. That's just a system bet, no matter what the opponent is, no matter who he's going up against, no matter whether he's a favorite or an underdog. GM3 third round sub auto bet. Missed the line on GM3, gone now. Got to do some degenerate parlay. Yeah, throw him in something with a couple legs. Maybe that'll be the way to do it, but he's not going to be in any parlays of mine this week. And talk about trends. Look at how many times Bam Bam been finishing the third and how many GM3 third round finishes there are. That's for sure, man. GM3 third round sub. Let's make that the auto bet for this week. And got in on third round sub at plus 1050, open plus 1200. There you go. Once the probability shows on the Patreon, I will sign up at whatever tier is necessary. I've been looking at signing up anyway, and that would be too good to pass up. Yeah, I will let you know, Paku, when that's all ready to go, because it needs to be perfect when we released it, because, I don't want you guys paying for a work in progress. And then once it is perfect, I think it's going to be something that people really want to be a part of. Talking about questionable careers, Bruno Silva versus Weidman in a few weeks. Oh, boy. Okay, looked horrible at 185. Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. I agree. I don't think he belongs there for sure. All right, Barberena looks done. He's getting up there, man. He's almost 35 years old, but he had serious back surgery. The kind of surgery where they were telling him he probably should never fight again. So, yeah, this is a very difficult sport, man. And when you start going downhill, it usually happens very fast. We got Vinny Barberena has a better chance at winning than Barberena. Oh, I love a Cuban assassin. That's great work, my man. Thank you for that. Okay, you guys, next fight. Another fight that I just don't see my money getting anywhere near, and it is going to be Pannie Kianzad at plus 200 as the underdog going up against Macy Chiasson. Minus 235. Fight doesn't go to decision. Big plus money number here at plus 250. Interesting at plus 250 because Macy finished her the last time around, but it was at a different weight class. So let's get these stats up on the screen. And we see that Pannie has won 3 out of her last 5 fights. All 5 of those fights have went to decision. Wins over Sarge Eubanks, Alexis Davis, and Lena Landsberg, and losses to the current champion in Raquel Pennington, and another loss to the very handsome Ketlin Vieira, while Macy Chiasson has won 3 of her last 5 fights as well. She's lost 2 of her last 3, just like Pannie has. The losses coming via meme, up kick, liver kick KO to Irene Aldana. Also a submission loss to the current champion in Raquel Pennington, with wins over Norma Dump Truck Dumont by split decision and Marion Renault and Shanna Young via unanimous decision. So this is a rematch of the Ultimate Fighter finale, which took place at 145 pounds back when they were trying to start that division in the UFC. Macy won that fight by second round submission, and now this is a rematch taking place several years later. It's going to be Pannie, who's the more experienced competitor, both overall with about almost 200 more minutes of pro cage time and 11 more fights as a pro. She's also got the same amount of fights as Macy at the UFC level, but about 30 more minutes of octagon time. At distance striking range, that's where Pannie does her best work. She's got a positive 1.68 distance striking differential. She throws 15.78 distance strikes per minute, and her opponents throw 12.82. So way above average accuracy, way above average landed per minute, way above average output. So very good numbers, very good minute winning capabilities over the long term for Pannie at distance striking range. Macy also winning some minutes too, but not landing as much. A little bit less of a distance striking differential, a lot less accurate, and a little bit less defensively responsible. But she throws a lot more volume than her opponents do as well. So both of them do stay busy. But if there's a big difference at distance striking range, it's the power of Macy Chiasson. She's 4 inches taller. She's got a 6-inch reach advantage, and she's just the bigger girl. So she has landed 2 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights, and she has 2 wins by way of KO in the UFC, while Pannie has never knocked anyone down. She has been dropped 3 times at the UFC level, and she has been knocked out once as a professional. So I like Macy's power advantage here, and I also like Macy's ability to win minutes in the grappling exchanges. As we see, hang on just a second here. Yeah, as we see, Pannie only 30% takedown accuracy, 71% takedown defense, but she's getting out-controlled 31% to 14.5%. So she's only winning 31% of the control time positions her fights are in, while Macy's a lot more active, attempting 41 takedowns to only 14 against her, and she's got 34% accuracy, above average 64% takedown defense, but she is out-controlling her opponents 41% to 17.5%, winning 70% of the control time positions. So you see, all this red here, for Kianzad losing minutes in the grappling exchanges, and all this green here for Macy winning minutes in the grappling exchanges. So if I can count on Macy to be the more likely minute winner in the grappling exchanges, if Pannie Kianzad has never even won a fight by submission as a professional, then we can give Macy that advantage in the grappling and at distance striking range, while Pannie is going to be the one more likely to win minutes, stay busy, and land more significant strikes at distance. It's probably Macy landing the bigger shots. So I think I have to lean Macy Chiasson here, because I think I can count on her to win minutes in the grappling exchanges, in the clinch, and on the mat. And I also think that it's going to be close at distance striking range. Pannie's definitely the more experienced fighter. She's a little bit younger, and she's got a little more cage time at the UFC level, and she's more likely to win minutes at distance, and she has fought the better brand of competition overall. She's fighting about the same level of experienced fighters as Macy, but the better win-loss records, as the combined record of her competition, 56-42 for Pannie, while it's 47-45 for Macy, and 0.9 win-to-loss ratio in her wins, while it's 0.79 for Macy. So Pannie's wins are against the better win-loss ratioed fighters and the more experienced fighters. So Pannie, we like the minute winning at distance. We like the strength of schedule. We like the overall experience advantage. And with Macy, we like the size, the power, the length, the ability to win minutes in the grappling exchanges, and the fact that she's won this fight before. That fight was at 145 pounds, and this one will be at 135. With any Macy Chiasson fight, we have to be worried about what she looks like on the scale. She cuts a ton of weight to make 135. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on how Macy looks on the scale here. But until I see how she looks there will be no action for me on this fight. And I'm going to pick Macy to win this one by decision. All right. So I'm picking Macy for the rematch here, and I'm picking her to win by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got that hidden treasure saying sheesh, GM3 sub plus 110, and a fight doesn't go to decision minus 170. Yeah, I know, man. It's not a juicy line at all, but that's what we have to work with this week. DJN saying Kianzad getting rolled by the Road Warrior. Lorenzo Lamas was a bad look. Yeah, I know, man. But Lorenzo's tough. Lorenzo's handsome. So we can maybe forgive Bonsai Kianzad for that, but still, it's not a good look getting rolled by former Renegade star there. And am I losing my internet here? Okay, there we go. We got Gerald Omandarp in the room saying Nibiru kicked Verdum's leg, yet we need a shoey from Muay Thai Tui via kick to the head. Yeah, all right, man. Yeah, that's for sure, dude. Good to see you hanging out in here, Gerald. Thanks for being with us. And let's move on to this next fight, as it is going to be an absolute banger between two really, really high-level prospects here in the UFC's featherweight division. We got Christian Rodriguez at plus 164, squaring off against Isaac Dulgarian, the minus 189 favorite out of Factory X Muay Thai in Englewood, Colorado. We got fight doesn't go to decision here, and minus 130 for this fight. So let's first start talking about the wins. And this is going to be C-Rod's second UFC fight at featherweight. Christian is undefeated as a bantamweight and 0-1 up at 145. He made his UFC debut at 145 on short notice against JSP, and he lost a unanimous decision in that fight and got out-grappled by the much bigger Pierce. Christian missed weight in his last two UFC fights against Raul Rosas and Cameron Simon, and he also missed on Dana White's Contender Series versus Reyes Cortez, so now he's been forced up to featherweight. This is a prospect versus prospect matchup, as Christian is 26 and Isaac is 27. Isaac is undefeated as a pro at 6-0, and his amateur record was 4-0. All 6 of his pro wins come in the first round, 2 submissions, 4 knockouts, and his average fight time as a pro is 2.24 minutes. Isaac has a high-level wrestling background. He was an NCAA Division II wrestler who was a D2 finalist as a true freshman and a 3-time state champion in high school. Isaac takes you down, keeps you there, and beats you up until the ref steps in or until he finds an arm triangle from the top or a rear naked choke. Isaac has never been out of the first round as a pro or as an amateur. He's been that dominant, but this will be a big step up in competition for him against a well-rounded and well-tested prospect in Christian Rodriguez. Definitely the most intriguing matchup on this card. Now, Christian Rodriguez, 1.5 years younger than Isaac. He's the younger guy and the more experienced fighter, as he's got 5 more professional fights, 80 more minutes of pro each time, in almost 2 more years as a professional fighter. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and 45 more minutes of octagon time. He is the better boxer / kickboxer in this matchup. He's probably the better submission grappler, but it's really hard to know due to how little we've seen of Dulgarian. And Christian Rodriguez has faced the better brand of competition overall and in the UFC. Now, Isaac Dulgarian is a phenomenal high-level wrestler. He gets takedowns, he keeps you down, he lands massive ground and pound that either finishes the fight or he subs you. Complete dominance thus far from his amateur and pro careers for Isaac Dulgarian. So this is my favorite fight on the card. Dulgarian is an elite prospect who's been nothing short of dominant thus far as a pro. 6 wins, 6 finishes, only 13.5 minutes of pro cage time in order to achieve that feat. His wrestling is efficient. His ground and pound is lethal. His ability to be able to control his opponent when he gets them down is amazing. And he can finish from the top with his arm triangle. He can get to your back and finish with the rear naked choke. We know nothing about the striking or how he looks in the second round because none of his opponents have been able to keep the fight standing or survive the first round. So there's still a lot of missing information on Isaac. But what we do know about him is that he is dominant in the grappling realm. C-Rod is 1.5 years younger, more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's the superior striker, and he's fought the much better brand of competition. So I'd say without question that Rodriguez is the more known quantity here that should be more dependable if this fight gets out of the first round. We've seen Christian be put in some bad spots by Jonathan Pierce and Raul Rosas and persevere through those spots. So the chance for him to do the same versus Bulgarian is there as well. And if Isaac gets dragged into deep water, we have no idea how he will perform. I already bet the under 2.5 rounds here for 1.05 units at -105 due to the fact that both guys are dangerous finishers and Isaac has never been past the first round and is a savage finisher in his own right. But it's really hard to make a pick here due to all the unknowns on Bulgarian. I love that under 2.5 rounds here. I want to be clear that that's what my confidence is on in this fight. I'm going to pick Christian Rodriguez to win this fight by second round submission, but with very little confidence. So don't worry about the pick, about who's going to win. The pick is under 2.5 rounds at -5. That just seems silly to me. You got a guy in Bulgarian who in 4 of 4 fights, has been under 1.5 rounds. In his only UFC fight, he's been under 1.5 rounds. The guy's never seen a second round. And Christian Rodriguez has got a phenomenal choke game. We saw how close he was to finishing Jonathan Pierce up at 145 on short notice. And I think people are making just a lot of assumptions with Bulgarian right now because, like I said, C-Rod is the more known quantity here, but people are very confident in Bulgarian's ability, and he is a very high-level wrestler. So I get why he's the favorite. I'm picking Rodriguez because I know more about him, but really, -105, only 11.5% overpriced according to the benchmark for the division. But these guys, are finishers. And Bulgarian's never been out of a first round. So I love this spot at -105 for 1.05 units. And the pick is going to be Christian Rodriguez to win this fight by second round submission. All right. Best fight on the card. Love this fight. We got Cucumber saying, yep, Macy definitely by decision, definitely the play. Agree with you there, Cucumber. We got MA saying a couple of books have suspended the Bulgarian Rodriguez line. Don't know why. I think there's a lot of money coming in on Bulgarian, and maybe they're just pulling back and kind of seeing where it goes. And I could see books pulling that because they might be getting more exposure on the C-Rod side than they're comfortable with. And being that there really is no tape on Bulgarian at all and no idea what he's going to look like should this fight get extended, I think maybe some of the books are spooked. We got Cozy in the room saying C-Rod by whatever. That'd be if he was able to dominate this dude. Got Mark in the room saying, what's good, brother? Let's get him this week. Let's do it, Mark. We got DGen saying Bulgarian is completely unproven. Gotta bet C-Rod at dog odds. Yeah, we'll see if he might prove himself here, though, man. This is a guy who's got a very high ceiling, Isaac Bulgarian. I agree. Plus, constantly overlooked. Yes. C-Rod does love to take fighters' O's. Yeah, and he's been put in these situations because a lot of people were giving him no chance versus Raul Rosas. Dude, I bet C-Rod at plus 180 versus Raul Rosas. It went to plus 190, plus 200, plus 210, plus 220, plus 230. I got run over by that line. But he won that fight, and he won it dominantly in the second and third rounds. So this could be the same situation happening here. We got C-Rod Moneyline, says my guy Bacon in the room. We got Zach Johnson saying, yeah, I agree. Biggest puzzle. DGen saying C-Rod is good front headlock series, Dulgarian's neck will be there for guillotines and anaconda chokes if C-Rod can stuff a couple, for sure. C-Rod points handicap at this point for MMA hedge funds. It's not a bad look, man. Especially if Dulgarian can't get him out of there. Adolfo is saying C-Rod. Brava saying he loves C-Rod here. So underrated. Paku saying I'm not going to touch this fight at all. Way too many questions. Yeah, I'm sticking with that under 2.5 rounds at minus 105 and staying away from it other than that. M saying, Weezy, I feel like this line is blew up because people didn't get on Dulgarian in his first fight, but this is totally different. Yeah, Francis Marshall and Christian Rodriguez, I think there's a gap there in terms of what those guys can do all around. And Christian has been in there with high-level wrestlers like Junior Cortez in the past and high-level grapplers like Raul Rosas. That guy waxed Rosas' ass. Yeah, I mean, he did in the second and third, man. He Rosas gassed out. Rod was ready to put it on him, but now he's going to be up at 145. Face very, very interesting fight. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, which is going to be, oh yes, the long-awaited return of one of the most exciting fighters on the planet, a guy who looks like he drinks cough syrup before he fights. Ovince St. Preux is a plus 385 underdog. What? Plus 385, a stud like Ovince? Who's he fighting? Oh, well, he's fighting Kennedy Nzechukwu. Minus 510. The biggest favorite on the card is the African Savage. Minus 400 is the fight doesn't go to decision here. So, we've got the stats up on the screen. Let's talk some trends here. Ovince comes into this fight having lost 3 of his last 4 fights. The only win being a split decision over the rotting corpse of Shogun Rua. Ovince looks slow, disinterested, and completely checked out. He's pushing 41 years of age now, and there are a ton of miles on the engine with 43 pro fights in over 6 hours of professional cage time. Guess we will see if Ovince has one more big win in him, but I highly doubt it. Kennedy is coming off a first-round knockout loss as a minus 155 favorite where he was dropped by Dustin Jacoby in the first, and the fight was stopped way too quickly by referee Gary Copeland. Kennedy was on a 3-fight winning streak before the Jacoby fight, starting to look like a top 10 talent. Now he gets a bounce-back spot here against the old and slow Ovince St. Preux. Ovince has got the pro experience edge, obviously, with 27 more pro fights, 235 more minutes of cage time, and 8 more years as a pro. And he has the UFC experience advantage as well, with 16 more fights, 150 more minutes of octagon time. And he's dangerous from top control, is Ovince, especially with his Von Preux choke. And he's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced UFC competition with the better win-loss records. And Kennedy Nzechukwu is 9 years younger than Ovince. He's 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So he's younger, taller, and longer. He's the busier striker. He's more accurate with better defense, and he's the more efficient grappler. Ovince looks washed. He's always been kind of slow and low out. He doesn't wrestle much. He only lands 2.67 significant strikes per minute. But he found a way to finish 11 of 14 UFC wins. So he did have a knack for being patient and finding those moments. And Kennedy's 9 years younger. He's taller. He's longer. He has the better conditioning and output. He stays busy on the feet. He pressures his opponent. And he's recently shown the ability to mix in the wrestling to win minutes and moments like he did in the Carl Roberson fight. Kennedy is a physical freak with excellent conditioning, output, and power in his hands, and his step-in knees are lethal. The biggest problem he has is getting hit hard and dropped early. We see Kennedy get hurt in the first round over and over and over again, and it's due to how relentlessly he pressures and walks his opponents down, leaving himself open for counters. Kennedy is so much more aggressive and active in there. It's hard to picture him losing this fight unless Ovince finds his chin early. But it's been a while since we've seen Ovince flash power. You'd have to go back to the Menafield fight, which is in 2020, to see the last time he landed a knockdown or got a KO. There is no way Ovens wins minutes against Kennedy. So his only chance here is to win a moment. And I just don't see that as a very likely scenario. So it's going to be Kennedy and Nchekwu to win this fight by second round knockout. We're going with the African Savage to knock out the Haitian in round number 2. And then hopefully Ovens St. Preux calls it a career, not just for his own best interests, but for the best interests of his fans, which have gotten sick of watching this dude fight because it's just not very fun anymore unless he's just getting his shit pounded in by Lins. And in this case, Kennedy and Nchekwu. That might be fun to watch. But yeah, I got the African Savage here and Nchekwu to win by second round KO. Let's see. We got Expressed in the room. What is going on, man? He's got the charts. He's got the crown, and he's got something else there. I can't see what the hell that is. But either way, man, Expressed, appreciate you, man. I saw that Presidente Pedro joined the Patreon. I saw my guy Expressed join the Patreon. I had a couple new signups on the Patreon as well from other guys. Appreciate everybody that's signing up on the Patreon. Great place to get some fantastic analytics and statistics. We got MMA Hedge Fund saying Kennedy by ass shave. Get on that under. Yeah, man, I think the under hits here too. I know Kennedy's supposed to bonk him, but I was on Kennedy sub round 2 at plus 2,500 against Clark. They're pricing it similar. Yeah, man, you never know, dude. He could get a club and sub. There might be a good way to look at this. And by the way, I just want to also, real quick, in the chat right now, if I told you, like, picture like the worst second round finish prop that you could find, like what would be the worst that you could possibly imagine? What do you guys think that Kennedy's second round prop is right now on Bet Online? Put it in the chat and we'll take a look at it after I'm done running down these comments from you guys. Paku saying OSP by Von Flew. Is there a sub prop lottery play? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. You know, I mean, like he could find it, dude. That's his only way to finish fights these days. We got Michael Martinez in the room saying, "Oi, what up, Unk?" We got Zach Johnson saying OSP checked out a few fights back. Definitely, man. Kennedy versus OSP feels like a sneaky over. Guy coming off a KO versus a slow starter. I could see the first round being a staring contest. I think Kennedy's going to put a lot of pressure on him early. But right now, my prop template kind of likes the over just because there's so many fights from these guys. 21 for St. Preux, 6 for Nchekwu. 17 of 31 or 54% of them have went over 1.5 rounds, and we're only paying 44%. So by the numbers, we're getting a 9.76% break here, 10.39% break here, 0.64% break here. That's what we call a trifecta bet on the prop template, which means that according to the past data of both fighters, that we can kind of price this as being underpriced and that we're getting value. But the problem is that Ovens looks washed and Kennedy needs a win. And I think Kennedy probably gets it done late first round, early second round here. So I think the under 1.5 at minus 155 is more likely to hit. But you could tell that the bookies are onto it, and it's being a little bit overpriced according to our prior data. We got Zach Johnson. Listen, if Lins can KO OSP out in round 1, so can Kennedy. Agreed. Inside the distance, worth it, or directly KO? I would just go inside the distance, just because you're probably like the sub prop's going to be wide, and it probably won't be much of a difference between the two. Kennedy has a standing guillotine. Yes, he does. Benino saying plus 325. Zach Johnson saying plus 350. Brava saying plus 400. Now, normally, those are entirely too low, but you're all wrong, and you're all you're actually all overpriced. Check this out on Bet Online. I am proclaiming this the worst line that I have ever seen. Here, actually, let me just log out real quick here. And it's going to take a second. All right, there we go. And we move this to our new window, and we're going to take a look at the worst prop your Uncle Weezy has ever seen, and it is Kennedy and Nchekwu to win in round 2. And this is not a fucking typo. plus 240. Plus 240. Shame on Bet Online. I have never seen a second round prop at anything worse than like 450. And you sons of bitches open it up at plus 310 and then lower it to plus 240. This is the worst line I have ever seen. So no, 240 says Benito. I'm putting my rent on it. Brava says that's disgusting. We got D-Gen saying the molasses man will finish him in the third. Dude, I'm going to pull a Brady right now and tell D-Gen for life that if the molasses man finishes Kennedy and Chekwu in round number 3, I'm going to send you $50 cash because it's never fucking happening. And I'll probably not even send you the money if it happens, because then I'll say it should have never happened and I shouldn't have had to send it. But yeah, D-Gen for life, one of my guys, definitely hilarious dude. And I think he's joking, saying he's going to finish him in the third. It's the worst line I have ever seen. That is dog shit, says M the Great. He's 100% on MMA Hedge Fund saying Bet Online is just insulting us now. The worst line ever. Kennedy and Chekwu round 2 plus 240. Oh baby. All right. Let's get that off the screen and move on to the co-main event, which is going to be a really good one, you guys. It is going to be, we got Bryan, the Butcher Battle at minus 170. He has retired the Pooh Bear nickname and has moved on to being the Butcher here, and he is going up against Anheliger at plus 145. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 150. This is a good one, you guys. I think both of these guys have got a really bright future in the organization. Both guys are pretty hot right now. Battle on a 2-fight win streak. Anheliger on a 2-fight win streak. Decent names. They both have a win over AJ Fletcher in their last 2. Anheliger, a good unanimous decision win over Reese McKee, who's a tough opponent. Bryan Battle, flashy left hook, right hook knockout over Gabriel Green. So both of these guys are hot, but Bryan Battle in particular, hot fighter right now. 10-2 as a pro, 5-1 in the UFC, with his only loss coming against Rinat Fakhretdinov. He's finished 4 of his 5 UFC wins, and he's on a 2-fight winning streak over Gabe Green as a plus 110 underdog, and AJ Fletcher is a minus 190 favorite. Anga also comes in on a 2-fight winning streak over AJ Fletcher as a plus 140 underdog, and Reese McKee as a minus 165 favorite. This should be a really good co-main event between two guys that are on win streaks and have promising futures in the organization. Bryan Battle, 1.5 years younger, 3 inches taller, and a 3-inch reach advantage over Anheliger. And he has the UFC experience advantage here with 3 more fights and 3 more minutes of octagon time. He's the more opportunistic finisher. He's got 4 UFC finishes and 5 wins. He's got 2 knockouts and 2 submissions, and he's got an 80% finish rate overall compared to 60% for Lusa. A better minute and moment winner at distance striking range is Bryan Battle. He's got a plus 3.94 distance striking differential, as you can see right there. The negative 1.9 for Lusa. He's got a plus 7.45 distance striking differential in attempts compared to negative 2.88 for Anheliger. Battle throws more, he lands more, he wins more minutes, and he has 2 UFC knockdowns, a 1.14% distance knockdown percentage, and 2 UFC wins by way of KO. Won a highlight reel right hook KO of Gabe Green in 14 seconds, and another highlight reel head kick in 44 seconds versus Takashi Sato. As long as this fight is on the feet, I favor Battle's ability to win minutes with his activity and moments potentially with his power, although Anga's also a very powerful striker. And Bryan is a very opportunistic moment winner in the grappling exchanges. He's 5-1 to the submission as a professional and 2-0 to the submission in the UFC. He attempts 0.63 submissions per 15 minutes, which comes out to a total of 2 submission attempts in the UFC, and finished both of those attempts by rear naked choke, which resulted in a second-round win over AJ Fletcher in his last fight as a -190 favorite, and another second-round win over Gilbert Urbina in his UFC debut. Bryan's strength of schedule metrics at the UFC level rate better than Lusa's. However, both of these guys are fighting competition with losing records. Now, Anga has the overall experience advantage. He's got one more fight and about 30 more minutes of pro cage time compared to Bryan Battle. Anga's got the durability. I don't think anyone is knocking this dude out. He's got a heart for days and a solid chin. Lusa lasted 15 minutes with Jack Della Maddalena on Dana White's Contender Series and survived 2 really bad spots against AJ Fletcher and Reese McKee, in addition to absorbing 141 significant strikes against Munir Lazez after taking that fight on less than a week's notice. The minute winning in the grappling exchanges, I believe that advantage goes to Anga Lusa, as he gets 2.67 takedowns per 15 minutes on 5.33 attempts. He's 50% accurate on his attempts. He's got 100% takedown defense on 6 attempts against. He's out-controlling his opponent 26%, as you see there, to 4%, winning over 87% of the control time positions that his fights are in. And Bryan Battle has 45% takedown defense on 20 attempts against, and he's getting out-controlled 39% to 17%. So Bryan is only winning 30% of the control time positions that his fights are in, and Anga's winning 87%. So while this fight does get to the ground, if it does, I think that Anga might be doing the better work down there, while Bryan probably be the more likely guy to win moments with his submission attempts here. But yeah, I do think that Anga Lusa certainly appears better suited to win minutes with his offensive wrestling here, as we see the green here in the control time positions here for Anga Lusa, while it's red and yellow here for Battle. So definitely a differential in the minute winning abilities for both of these guys with wrestling. So this should be a really fun stylistic matchup for the co-main event. The minute and moment winning striking game and the opportunistic submission game of Bryan Battle versus the durability, the heart, the solid offensive wrestling of Anga Lusa. Both guys are on 2-fight win streaks. Both are in their physical primes, but only one can come out with the dub. There's a like, though, on the Battle side. He's 1.5 years younger, 3-inch height and reach advantages, UFC experience and strength of schedule advantages, better minute winner and distance manager at range, more power shown thus far in the UFC, and he's been caught less by his opponents, and he's the far more opportunistic submission grappler. Now, Anga Lusa has power of his own on the feet. He's durable, and he has no quit in him. And he's recently demonstrated an improved ability to win minutes with his wrestling, top control, and ground and pound in the Fletcher and the McKee fights. Stylistically, I like what I saw from Lusa against a taller opponent in Reese McKee, when he showed the ability to close distance with his pressure and boxing combinations. When he got into range, he landed big shots and successfully got fights to the ground with his takedown attempts. If he can use that same pressure while putting together combinations to get past the kicks of Battle and into boxing range, I think he can keep this fight very close on the feet, while also opening the door to win minutes with his wrestling and top control against a guy in Battle who has 45% takedown defense and who's allowed 39% control time to his opponents. I think that this is going to be a close fight, and I think it goes the full 15 minutes. It's a fun co-main event between 2 well-rounded welterweights. I think Battle is the rightful favorite with all the advantages he has here on paper, but I believe the money line value is on the underdog in Anga Lusa. It's a really tough fight to call, but when I thought about it and went through the tape, I kind of felt like Anga was going to be able to close the distance here, dirty up this fight, and kind of take away some of the minute-winning ability at distance of Bryan Battle. And if he's able to successfully implement that game plan, I'm going to pick Anga Lusa here for the upset and pick him to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Mash the inside 60 seconds for, he says, Zach. He said that OSP is showing up for a check. That is a very good possibility. Justin saying tall fighters can be bad at having terrible ring IQ, and black tall fighters are one of the worst. Don't put all your money on Chukwi. Paku saying battle in parlays. He gets better and better every fight. He does. He really is improving. And outside of that Fakhretdinov fight, he's looked really good at the UFC level. But I think Angalusa is getting a lot better as well. And I really like his skill set and durability and heart. And he's been training at a good camp right now. And I think it's kind of coming together like butt cheeks for both of these guys right now. So it's going to be interesting to see which one comes out on top. I think it's going to be a close fight. And the reason I'm picking Lusa is because I think there's more value on that number. So we'll see how it goes. Not as bad IQ, just immature and play dumb like Holland. Yeah. We got I love battle. Yeah, JDM couldn't finish Angalusa. I know, man. Let's see. MMA saying battle finish only is close enough to his money line now. Should be safe. Yeah. Yeah, Anga hasn't finished anyone yet at the UFC level, and Battle's been a better finisher, but Angalusa is a pretty durable guy. I love Battle, but I think he's the real deal, says Briva. MMA Hedge Fund saying Battle Live to sub him regardless of JDM not KOing him. Yes. Hunter Rujal says tricky fight to bet on. Yeah, I agree, man. We got Justin saying Lusa better Flowers, but not saying much. Yeah, he's way better than Darius Flowers, dude. Hunter Rujal saying Bryan Battle by decision seems logical. Gotcha. D-Gen for life saying Battle keeps his chin high, tall man defense. Someone will catch him, but I don't think Lusa's the guy. Blonde Dog in the room saying, hey, what's up, Unc? I just got lucky with a hockey parlay. Kaneki, 2 points. Bedard, 2 points. Eichel, 2 points. 50-1537. Wow, 50 into 1537. So I can gamble way more on this shit card. I haven't looked into these fights, but Battle is the favorite. Seems like hype, recency bias. Angalusa's solid, bros. Yeah, I know, man. He is a solid fighter. I just got PTSD from betting McKee. I'm staying away. I bet McKee too. I had McKee by decision at something like plus 250. Or did I just take the McKee money line? I think I had McKee by decision. And man, he came close to finishing him at the end of the third, which I wouldn't have cashed, because I had him by decision. And Anga won the first 2 rounds. So I thought that was an impressive performance from Angalusa. And I think right now Reese McKee is actually an underrated fighter. I like Reese's skill set. And Benino saying Battle has the heart and will to win, but could lose minutes off his back. I agree with that, man. And that brings us to the main event, you guys. We've got Tai Tuivasa at minus 125 squaring off against the Polish man, Marcin Tybura. He's a plus 105 underdog, and the fight doesn't go to decision here. Juice to the tits at minus 1,400 for this fight. So 76 of you in here live, dude, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up. It's free. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Leave me a comment. It's free. Join the Patreon. It's not free, but for your not free, you get access to great statistics like this, and you get to support the work of your favorite uncle, Uncle Weezy. So come along. We're on a journey where we use MMA stats to help us stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Join that Patreon. The address is right there. See that? See where my finger is? You see that's Uncle Weezy, MMA Weezy, and right below that, patreon.com/Uncle Weezy in nice big letters that you see right there. But let's get these stats back up on the screen and start talking about the trends here for Tuivasa versus Tybura. Now, Tai is currently on a 3-fight losing streak against top 5 opponents in the division like Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, and Alexander Volkov. We can forgive him for that. He was a heavy underdog going into all 3 fights, plus 425 versus Gane, 180 versus Pavlovich, and 200 versus Volkov. And prior to that, fighting that murderer's row, he was on a 5-fight winning streak, coming through with first-round finishes against Stefan Struve, great Harry Hunsucker, and Greg Hardy, and he had second-round finishes versus Augusto Sakai and Derek Lewis. All of Tai's UFC wins but one come under 1.5 rounds. So he's a very front-loaded moment winner who relies on landing the big shot on the feet. Marcin has been pretty hot lately. He's won 7 of his last 9 fights. The only losses in that stretch come against Alexander Volkov and Tom Aspinall. And the wins are against solid competition, including Sergey Spivak. That's a guy that actually beat Tai Tuivasa. Maxim Grishin, Ben Rothwell, Greg Hardy, Walt Harris, Alexander Romanov, and the very handsome Blagoy Ivanov. And prior to that fight stretch, he got knocked out 2 fights in a row by Augusto Sakai and the very handsome Shamil Abdurakhimov. And his chin had held up since then until his most recent main event slot against Tom Aspinall. Both these guys are coming off losses, looking to get back on the right track. And the bookies have this line closely with Tai Tuivasa a slight favorite at -125. Interesting line movement today in the under 1.5 rounds line. Something to keep our eye on. And I just want to highlight that for you guys here. Tai Tuivasa, Marcin Tybura, under 1.5 rounds is now +110. But you could see that opened at +155 and then went to +145 and then went to -200. Then back to -155, back to -115. And now here we are back at +110. So something happened and somebody dropped an absolute ton of money on the under 1.5 rounds as if they know something, which brought it from +150, +145 all the way to -200. We're talking about a line that was sitting around just above 40% implied probability and got pushed 20% got pushed 26% in implied probability all the way to 66%, and then has bounced right back up now to about 48% here at +115. So very interesting line movement in the violence prop, the under 1.5 rounds for this fight, and that all happened today. Now let's talk about the advantages for both fighters. Tai Tuivasa, 7.5 years younger. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He's way more dangerous on the feet as a moment winner. Tai has 7 knockdowns in 14 UFC fights. He's got a 2.93% distance knockdown percentage. He's finished 7 of his 8 UFC wins by knockout, and he's 13-3 to the KO in his professional career. Marcin Tybura has been knocked out 5 times as a professional and 4 times in the UFC. So you know Tai will be looking to keep this fight standing early so he can land the big shot because he can't win minutes for shit, and this is a 5-round fight. Tai's UFC strength of schedule metrics are slightly better than Marcin's overall and in his wins. Now, Marcin Tybura is going to be 1 inch taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. He's got the pro experience advantage with 12 more fights, 205 more minutes of cage time in less than a year more as a pro. So Marcin has also been the far more active fighter compared to Tai. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights than Tai Tuivasa and 2 hours more of cage time. And he's the better minute winner wherever the fight goes. At distance, Marcin has the superior distance striking differential at -0.14 compared to -1.38 for Tai, and the distance defense at 61% here for Marcin, but only 47% for Tai Tuivasa. Marcin is getting 1.39 takedowns per 15 minutes on 4.09 attempts, both above average for the division, and he outcontrols his opponents 28% to 14%, winning about 2/3 of the control time positions his fights are in. Tai has never completed a takedown in 14 UFC fights, so obviously Marcin will be the guy winning minutes and moments in the grappling exchanges should the fight get there. So it's an interesting main event between 2 top 10 heavyweights. I think most people will break this fight down in a similar fashion and point out that Tai Tuivasa is more dangerous on the feet, especially early in the fight, while Marcin needs to weather the early storm, find a takedown or some clinch control time, wear on Tai Tuivasa, find a finish on the mat in the 2nd or 3rd round, and I'm not going to be any different. Obviously, I love Tai's 7.5-year age advantage. The power differential there is on the feet and his heavy calf kicks that slow down the movement of his opponents. Marcin needs to keep his distance, find ways to close the distance to get inside, maybe set up his takedown attempts off of Ty's leg kicks in order to get this fight to where he will be the most dangerous on the mat, where he can use his top-notch ground and pound and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to hunt for the finish. Which one of these guys gets their way, though? Does Marcin's chin and shins, for that matter, hold up to the power of Tuivasa? I find it hard to be confident about either side, and the money line where it sits currently seems to agree with me on that fact, but it's ever so slightly leaning towards the Tuivasa side here due to the youth and the power differential. So I'm going to go that way as well and pick Tai Tuivasa to win this one by second round knockout, but I have no bets on this fight, and I'm very low confidence in that pick. I think the low leg kicks of Tai are going to make a big difference here, and Marcin's wrestling is just okay, and I feel like if he can't get this fight to the ground, Tai probably lands something big in the first 7 minutes. And if he doesn't land something big in the first 7 minutes, I think then Marcin is going to find the ways to win the minutes to wear on Tai and maybe to find a later finish, third round knockout or something like that, maybe fourth round where he gets it to the ground and finishes with ground and pound. But very unconfident pick, Tai Tuivasa to win this one by second round knockout. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Okay, that's the co-main event, says Blonde Dog. Yes, sir. I think I'm biased against Battle. Num saying, yeah, I know, man. We got Taking Your Top Knock saying, okay, FYKH. We got MMA Hedge Fund saying, I think Tuivasa finds his chin before Tybura is able to go full wrestle fuck mode. However, Tybura via decision is a great play for the odds, could turn into a mess of a fight if it goes late, and that is very true. We got Hunter saying insane line movement. Something fishy is going on. And yeah, and when I see line movement like that, Hunter, it more or less tells me to stay away because somebody might know something out there. MMA Hedge Fund saying just logically, if you're lining the fight at minus 1,400 to not go to decision, under 1.5 at plus money is value. Yeah, and I think that's what people are looking at there. Did anything Saturday, the UFC 300 commercial came out, very Avengers, UFC 300 Endgames. I didn't see it. I don't remember. Blonde Dog saying, looks like we have heavyweight and women's main event sub pay-per-view for like the 2 months, fellas. Yeah, for it. That's true, man. Calling all UFC fighters, the world needs you. Tuivasa via KO punches. Yep. I've always been pretty high on Marcin Tybura relative to public perception, and he's won some good underdog spots. Dude, I cashed on Tybura at plus 350 versus Alexander Romanov, so I'm with you there, Blonde Dog. Tai is one-dimensional and doesn't seem to take his career too seriously. Yeah, and people were talking earlier about the fact that he might have hurt his knee, in which case I might want to change my pick here to Marcin Tybura, but I don't know. We'll see, man. This is an interesting one. If Tai doesn't finish him in the first round, he's not likely to win, and I tend to agree with that. First round or the first minute and a half or 2 minutes of the second round. I don't know if I trust Tia Holland. And from my experience, some of these fights are rigged. You never know, man. And Blonde Dog saying, yes, Hunter. All right, you guys, we did it. We made it through all 13 fights on this card. Let me take you through my 3-track bets that I have so far. And it is going to be a 1-unit bet on the over 2.5 rounds at minus 185 for Cory McKenna versus Jaqueline Amorim. So one unit to win like 0.55 or 0.6 around there. I've also got 1 unit on the under 2.5 rounds for Josh Culibao versus Danny Silva. I think that this is going to be a banger, a Donnybrook. I think these guys are going to swing hammers, and somebody's going to get served in the first 12.5 minutes here. Got that at plus money at plus 155. And then I have a 1.05 unit in order to win 1 unit bet on Christian Rodriguez, Isaac Dalgarian's under 2.5 rounds, sitting at minus 105, a 1.05 unit bet to win 1. So 3.05 units thus far in tracked action, waiting for props to open on the rest of the books right now. And that's what we have. So check it out. I still know you guys what I want to do for the ass shaving of the week. So I need you guys to help me out here. If you were going to pick somebody for the ass shaving of the week this week and exclude the Amorim McKenna fight, the Josiane Nunes and Chelsea Chandler fight, and the Macy Chiasson and Pannie Kianzad fight. And if we take the minus 500 Kennedy and Chekwu out of the equation, and if we take the minus 425 Thiago Moises out of the equation. So in other words, we got to find an ass shaving of the week in the Grigoriou and Anheliger fight, the Culibao Silva fight, the Filho Osbourne fight, the Levy Davis fight, Meerschaert Barberena, Rodriguez versus Bulgarian, Battle versus Lusa, or Tuivasa versus Tybura fights. If you were to pick one ass shaving of the week out of those fights that I just gave you guys, who would it be? And put it in the chat. But before we get to Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, we already gave you guys the tracked bets thus far. Now we got to give you the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. And there are some money spots that I like here. If we look at these lines, I think Anheliger at plus 136 isn't the worst look. I think Jaqueline Amorim at plus 109, not a terrible look. Danny Silva at plus 161. I think he's live as an underdog this week. And don't forget, Josh Culibao from Australia, long trip from Australia to Las Vegas. And Danny Silva's a California boy, so it's going to be a very short trip for him to this fight. But it is his UFC debut, so you have to take that into account. Ode Osbourne as an underdog, don't really care for it. Chandler, I'm not betting that fight. Levy is an underdog, no thank you. Barberena is an underdog, no thank you. Kianzad is an underdog, no thank you. Christian Rodriguez, interesting. Ovens, no thank you. Angalusa at plus 155 is very interesting because I think he can win minutes with his wrestling. I think he can close the distance with pressure. And if he closes the distance, I think he's got as good a chance of landing big shots as Bryan Battle does. And then we can also look at Marcin Tybura at plus 105 for the dog of the week. And I went with Angalusa, but it was plus 145. And now it's plus 155. So your Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is Angalusa. I think that he's going to be able to keep it somewhat close on the feet. I think he's going to pressure Bryan Battle, get inside of that kicking range. What Bryan does really well is using those teep kicks up the middle to maintain distance and score points while you can't hit him. But what I noticed in the Reese McKee fight is that Angalusa wasn't on the pressure all the time. He did take his foot off the gas several times during the fight in order to rest and find places to recuperate. But when he was pressuring, he was winning the minutes in the striking exchanges, and he won those first 2 rounds with that pressure. And he also mixed in the wrestling in order to kind of seal those rounds. And because Bryan Battle has shown such bad takedown defense and the ability to lose money or minutes off of his back, I think Angalusa's money line at plus 155 right now, even better than plus 145, is a dog shot worth taking a shot on. I think this is a close 50-50 fight. So I think it's a dog or pass spot here for Angalusa. Now, see what you guys are saying in the chat because I need help. You know, it's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, but I need you guys' help here. I don't know who the hell I'm going to put on this. So we've got, let's see here. MMA saying, I didn't catch the earlier part of the show, but if you're not taking Kennedy for the ass shave, then it's got to be Davis or Meerschaert if you want to go risky. And I'm not taking Kennedy because you guys already know he's going to win. He's minus 510. And I'm not taking Moises because it's a short notice opponent. He's already minus 450. So you're in the boat here for Meerschaert or Mike Davis. Do I think the line will flip on the main event? I think it could if this news of Tuivasa blowing out his knee kind of gets out into the lexicon and the cappers start to talk about it. It could be something where we could see the line shift to Tybura, and that knee injury actually has me thinking I should change my pick to Tybura. Hunter is on GM3. We got Benino on GM3. I put all the girl fights to go over in a parlay. Don't mind it. Blom Dog saying, I hate to say it because I love OSP, but Nzechiku ass shaving. We got Daz Files bet the Chad. Okay. We got Gerald is forcing me. Okay. Let's see. Levy is tough, but you're going to say Mike Davis. Okay. Meerschaert to try to grapple Barberena, but he's going to try to strike with him. Yeah. Christian Rodriguez says Justin Villegas, underdog. There you go. Blomdog saying Bryan Barberena is going to get subbed. Wow, what a favorable matchup. Yep. We got Remdog saying it's the Bootsy Collins Memorial, and we know C-Rod got that dog in him. Yes, he does, man. I think Battle shaves ass, says Remdog. We've got C-Rod striking leaves something to be desired. Great wins thus far, though. Rough matchup. The ass shaving has to be Tybura, but he better bring extra cream for that Samoan back. Yeah, that is for sure. All right. You know what? Yeah. I'm going with Mike Davis. I know it's not the best one. It's not the best one. I don't love it because Mike's been on such a long layoff. But the problem is like Levy's been on a long layoff too, and I don't know where Levy's better than him. So I think Davis, should be able to just light this dude. So we're going to go Mike Davis to shave the ass of Natan Levy as this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We did it, you guys. 2 hours and 30 minutes. You guys have seen entirely too much of me this week. 2.5 hours on Stack Diggers. 2 hours and 45 minutes on the Die Hard MMA podcast yesterday with Clint. 2.5 hours right here on your Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. I thank you guys all for watching, for sharing your attention, for spending Tuesday night right here on this channel, breaking down fights with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below. And please consider joining the Patreon so you get access to all these phenomenal stats. And it's the best way to support my work. I will be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock Central Time, Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, Gordo Gambles, and Monk Maddox. And right back here, 10 o'clock tomorrow night for Ask Weezy, where I will answer all your questions that you have about any of the fighters, matchups, props, over-unders, prize picks, or underdogs questions you have. Ask your Uncle Weezy, and I will answer them right here on this YouTube channel, 10 o'clock Central Time tomorrow night. Thank you for your attention. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 88, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.